It's a new day for a high. It's another day to try to get by. And ooh, yeah, I'm feeling now every second, every hour of the day. Yeah. It's a new day for a high. Yeah. It's a new day for good times. I just turn the page, let it write what it likes. And ooh, yeah, I feel it now. Every atom in my body feels okay. Yeah. It's a new day for good times. Flying like I'm weightless, yeah, I'm losing all my senses, and it's making it impossible to die. Everything's in motion, yeah, I'm lost in the commotion, and I've never ever felt so freaking high. You say you only wanna be best friends. I just wanna be a damn girlfriend. What I gotta do to make you face the truth? You didn't act like a friend that night. Maybe that's why it felt so right. Do I really need to spell it out for you? So why you trying to hide your curiosity when I know you call my name out in your sleep? Tell me, friend, can't you see you're in love with me? It's obvious we are that perfect match. Ain't no catch, you and I will make it last. Place your bet on me and everything will be alright. Take a chance, ain't no risk. You and I won't hit and miss. Give yourself to me and we'll be more than friends for life. It always feels good to be honest. Can't you admit that you want this? Everybody knows it except for you. When you're lying there on your deathbed, you will regret you kept quiet. Also not telling me straight up, ooh. So why you trying to hide your curiosity when I know you call my name out in your sleep? Tell me, friend, can't you see you're in love with me? It's obvious we are that perfect match. Ain't no catch, you and I will make it last. Place your bet on me and everything will be alright. Take a chance, ain't no risk. You and I won't hit and miss. Give yourself to me and we'll be more than friends for life. So, what's it gonna be? You gotta give me something. What's it gonna be? Are we gonna do this or not? I really need to know if you're in or out. You don't have to say the words, just look in my eyes. Tell me, friend, oh, can't you see what you mean to me? It's obvious we are that perfect match. Ain't no catch, you and I will make it last. Place your bet on me and everything will be alright. Take a
life. More than friends for life. I don't know, we're about to lose some friends tonight. We might lose some friends tonight, people. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Doll. I said that in a weird way, didn't I? Let's change screens. Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome. Happy Friday. What's up, everybody? It is Beyond the Doll. As always, I am your host, Shizu-san, and my beautiful assistant with me today has not made an appearance in quite some time. This is Chitose, OG Chitose in Milk. She has long been retired in my collection. Mainly because I have a new Chitose in Tea to take her place. I don't want Milk to degrade any more than she already has been doing for quite some time. She, as you all know, she is my favorite. She is my go-to. Everywhere I go, she goes. And after, I don't know, what is it, like almost 10 years now of carrying her around, she's starting to degrade, starting to yellow, and she's been retired for a good part of half a year now. Just been hanging out in the display case because I don't want her to get any more, I guess, damage from just use, essentially. It's just use. But enough of that. She's here with us today because today is a very important topic, I think. I think it's a very important topic. And today we're going to talking about our dolls. Are they changing? Are they changing? Because I really think so. And the reason why I decided to do this topic today for you all is because recently I was with a group of friends, some close friends of mine, and we were talking about the doll hobby. You know, kind of like, because me and this particular group of friends, who shall remain nameless because they pretty much prefer it that way, we have been in the hobby roughly about the same time. Been going through, the same stuff, been throwing around ideas for quite some time. And we were talking about how much the hobby has changed. And between us in the group, or those of us that are in the group, I pretty much am the most active one, whereas some have taken some time off. Some have, gotten out of the hobby completely and then came back. So we have a varying difference of opinions of kind of like the absolute state of doll collecting, if you want to call it that. And, after ironing out a couple things, it seems like the not only the community, but the dolls themselves and the brands that make our dolls have changed. Their modus operandi, so to speak, am I saying that right? have changed. And for the better, really. It really is for the better, at least for the dolls, for the doll companies. I believe it's for the better. For us individuals that I like to call part of the old guard that have kind of been around for quite some time. Now, I truthfully, I admit, I am not here from the beginning, okay? Like, vinyl dolls in particular, because my channel mainly focuses on vinyl dolls. Vinyl dolls in particular have been around since roughly around 2003. So I didn't start in 2003, I started in 2011. So there are some people that have been around a lot longer than myself. But within that time frame of me being in this hobby for about almost, 2011 till now, that's like 13 years, just about 14 years, there's been a lot of change. Change for the better, change for the good. But there's also been some change that, brings about a sense of nostalgia, a sense of the old days, kind of wanting some of that back. Not necessarily because it was better, but it's because that's where we started. At least for me and my group of friends. We started at a particular time. So because you start at a particular time, those things become more nostalgic. They're more ingrained in your mind. So like some of you that have started collecting vinyl dolls or started with the hobby, let's say during the pandemic, because a lot of people did, we were stuck in our homes, we weren't really going out and people were making purchases, and a lot of people got into the doll hobby during that time frame. And when you look back on your earlier days and when you started in the hobby, those were the years that mattered to you the most. Those are the ones that you look back through probably more fondly, because it's that sense of exploration, that sense of discovery. You found something new, you have the urge to watch more, do more, learn more, and it's just that overwhelming sensation of like something just new, right, and exciting. So those moments in your lives, especially in the doll hobby, is very important, or any other hobby, really, to be fair. And we're going to talk about that today. Now, obviously, there's way too much to go over in one live stream session, so we're going to try and like narrow it down to a few core elements that I kind of want to discuss. Now, spoiler alert, I just want to warn you guys. Okay, I want to warn you guys ahead of time. A lot of today's conversation is going to focus around what my main channel is about vinyl dolls, about anime dolls. So we're going to be talking about Dolphy Dreams, Smart Doll, A-Zone, all different kinds of dolls that reside within that sphere, let's say. And a lot of our conversation today is going to circle around to Smart Doll. And the reason why is because I think Smart Doll is, in my opinion, my humble opinion, and I can be wrong, and you guys can call me out as much as you want in chat or in the comments. Call me out on this. But I feel like with the emergence of Smart Doll, and I've said it many times, it has changed the game. For better or worse is a varying of opinion. But let's delve into some of that, okay? So now, before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to acknowledge everybody that's here. Welcome everybody that's here at the live stream. Yoshi Plays, welcome. Happy Friday, Yoshi Plays. Glad to have you here. Mika7 is here. Welcome, Mika. I have Too Cold to Bother, I think a new person to our chat today. I don't recognize the name unless you change your name. Maria Velez, welcome, Maria. Marie Velez, welcome. I'm reading this all wrong. PNB Sakura, welcome to the stream. Good evening, PNB Sakura. And to many of you that are watching, that are lurking, welcome. Or those of you that are watching later on the VODs, welcome to today's episode. Hopefully you guys will find it informative, and hopefully you won't hate me for some of the things that I may say in today's stream. Now remember, this is all my personal opinion. There's no real like fact behind any of this. It's my theorizing, it's my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt, because I could be wrong. I am not perfect. I am definitely a fallible person. Ads are going to start in 5 seconds, so I'm going to take a quick water break before we get into the nitty gritty. I really hope that they fix the whole ad setting and I don't have an ad like every 30 seconds, because that was really annoying last time. Marie Velez, you modded to a live stream. I know. Welcome. Luxaria. What's up, Luxaria? Haven't seen you in so long. How have you been? I know you've been busy with some stuff, so hopefully everything went well. Tempest Strife, welcome to the chat, Tempest. DD to Chalice, welcome. Hi, I'm just lurking. That's fine. Lurkers are more than welcome. You don't have to chat if you don't want to, but I do appreciate the shout out. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. All right, so let's get started with the topic today. Now, I think in order to display or order to get a good bearing of, how things have changed, we got to start at the beginning, right? We got to start at the beginning. Now, I like I said in the beginning of this episode, it's going to be way too long for a live stream if I talk about every single little thing. So I'm going to try to narrow it down as best as I can and as short as I can so we can fit everything in today's episode. Welcome, Barbie Witch. Welcome to the stream. Feel free to lurk, no problem. So, in the beginning.
What?
So, let's see. We are going to move over to my PowerPoint presentation for you guys. And then, what happened to chat? Okay, hold on. Chat. I want to move you. Did I get it right? Okay. All right. So this way people can kind of read it that are watching it later on the VODs. Okay. So hopefully this doesn't block too much of the picture that shows up. So to begin with, we have resin. So the resin hobby has been around way longer than the vinyl hobby. I mean, they're not the progenitors, if that's the right word. I think that's the right word. Because we had many different dolls throughout history. There's straw dolls, there's porcelain dolls, there's wooden dolls, all different kinds of dolls. But let's say for today's particular topic in general, because we are talking about BJDs, we are talking about vinyl dolls and kind of the emergence of it. It all kind of started with resin dolls. We have these resin dolls, very beautiful dolls, but you have to admit, resin dolls have a certain je ne sais quoi. They have a certain look to them, so to speak. It's a very unique look that is pretty much unique to just resin dolls. And after some time, depending on how the story goes, a lot of people have varying opinions on how it may have started. I have my own version of how I believe it started. But regardless of how that took place, eventually, at some point in time, in 2003, we got the emergence of a vinyl doll. And this took the world by storm at the time, because everybody was so used to, in the BJD hobby, was resin. Had a very unique look. The wonderful eye makeup, the custom eye makeup, the hand-drawn painted faces, the glass eyeballs, so to speak. The very, I don't want to say hyper-realistic, but it has a stylized realism to them. And then all of a sudden you have vinyl dolls on the right. This is the very lovely Yukino. One of the first, not the very first, but one of the first vinyls to come out of Volks, which, by the way, same company that makes this particular resin that you see on screen and the vinyl that you see today. Now, the huge differences between the two, just to go over some brief history, is that one is made of resin, which is a harder material. One is made of vinyl, which is a softer material. One, on the left, the resin is strung. There are, hooks and rubber bands inside the doll to keep it all together and strung together. Whereas the vinyl on the right, you have an internal skeleton that keeps it shaped, much like let's say a figure that was inside the body and then covered in this vinyl shell, this yummy goodness, so to speak. and the varying differences between the two obviously is facial features, right? You have resin that looks like this semi-realistic, very stylized rendition of miniature people, I guess you could say. And then you have the vinyl on the right, which is heavily influenced in anime culture and is basically the doll hobby side's version of an anime doll, and what I like to call anime dolls, because they very much so have those features: big wide eyes, round shaped faces, kind of got a cat kind of look to it. As a lot of people will tell you that anime, most of the faces are based off of cat faces. That's how they started drawing them. But they do have very unique differences between them, as in, like I said, anime, resin, semi-realistic or hyper-realistic or whatever you want to call it. There's going to be another ad in 30 seconds. Why does it keep doing this? I said less ads this time, and it's still doing... I don't know how to change this. This is getting me very mad. Why does it keep doing this? I'm going to skip it. I'm skipping it, guys. Okay. I know our resident historian, Tempest Strife, is chiming in. Yes, I see your things, Tempest. The beginning was strung legs. Yes, the very first Dolphy Dream was strung on the inside for the very first DD edition. And then I want to say DD2 started the internal skeleton frame, but it actually didn't. There was a version of the original DD that actually had the very bare bone basics of an internal skeleton. And then I guess you could say when they refined it and wanted to make it a real thing, because that was I guess you could say a tester feeler to see how well these internal frames would do, then they created DD2. And DD2 is the first internal frame popularized or what do you call it? What's that word? When you heavily manufacture something, a production model, full-length production model was DD2. But anyways, going back, I don't think it was Candy. Mirai, I believe, was the first one. I think it was Mirai. It was the very first one. And then you had Yukino and I think Akira afterwards. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Mirai was the first one that was strung up. Let's see. So, moving on. Now, between this time frame, when you have resin, you have vinyls, blah blah blah, they were, how should you say, most of the time the vinyls were originals, the original characters. There were some vinyls that were collaborated with different shows, different manga people and things like that. They had their collaborations, and they still do till this day. But I would say that because the vinyl dolls of Dolphy Dreams had such an anime look to them, an anime aesthetic to them, it opened the doors for more IP work, because it's just with something with features like this that have a very anime feel to it, it screams collaborations, and that's what Volks did. And in time, Volks started collaborating with many different IPs to give you a lot of your most cherished favorite characters and bring them to life in doll form. Now, in the beginning, because it was new, it was fresh, and nobody has really done it in this type of a scale before, there weren't many choices. You had Rei Ayanami from Neon Genesis, you have Asuka from Neon Genesis, and they had many versions of themselves because they had the license for them, and they sold pretty well, and getting more licenses wasn't as easy. I shouldn't say easy, but it wasn't as plentiful as it is today. Then they went to some obscure titles where they started going into independent video games, things like visual novel games. They made a couple characters from them. And when popularity started increasing, they started getting more mainstream IPs where you started seeing things like Idolmaster. You started seeing things like Gurren Lagann. What else was there? Video games like King of Fighters with Mai Shiranui, etc., etc. Until we have the most recent lineup today for the most recent girls that have been and boys that have been released. You have Aqua from Konosuba, you have Frieren, Vocaloids have always been around for so long, Spy Family, a lot of really mainstream titles has been coming out from Dolphy. Now, the reason why I say it's interesting, right, is because even though they were the, so to speak, progenitors of our hobby or the craft, so to speak, they weren't without their faults. They weren't without their flaws, right? They vinyl in the earlier days yellowed a lot faster. They deteriorated a lot faster. Why? I don't know. Something in the composition or the makeup of the vinyls. The skeletons or the internal frames on the inside, they weren't as sturdy as you would like them to be. Many third parties started making aftermarket replacement parts or reinforcement parts to kind of make it so that these don't break so easily or snap so easily. There's a lot of hacks from people around the community of how to fix your dolls or how to make it more this or that. A lot of different things started emerging as people started getting more and more into the hobby. And with that came the emergence of Dolphy Dream, then Dolphy Dream 2, and then Dolphy Dream 3. Dolphy Dream is 3, or DD3, as affectionately it is known within the hobby, is the most modern iteration of the skeleton thus far in this timeline. Okay? In the timeline that I'm establishing right now, you had DD1, DD2, DD3. Okay? At that point, when DD3 was released, that was kind of like the pinnacle, the big hurrah of Dolphy Dream. You had, in the lifetime of DD3, you had some of the most popular characters coming back, some of the most popular characters finally getting dolls. You had a big boom in the hobby as well when DD3 came around. I think dolls in general of this variety started picking up steam and started getting more of a fandom. We got an ad in another 10 seconds. God, why is this doing this? I'm going to have to manually do this now. I think I'm going to have to change it to manual because this is annoying. Oh, wait, there's a thing where I can hit delay ad? All right, hold on. I'm going to try that after this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to see what this does. Delay ads. Oh, okay. It delays it for 10 seconds. I mean, 10 minutes, 10 seconds. Okay, so, okay. So during the lifetime or the iteration of DD3, I want to say, in my humble opinion, is the most popular time of Dolphy Dream's lifespan. Like I said, some of the greatest characters released in DD3. They also reached out and branched out to other things other than anime. They had more video game characters. They had some what's it called? Characters return for their third or second iterations of the character. And I think they hit a high at that point. They also, had issues though. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. With more characters became more demand for product, and for more demand of product became quality control issues. You started getting to the point where limbs were falling off of your doll. They were a little loose, and there weren't many ways to repair them at the time. You could super glue, and now I'm not saying super glue the pieces together, but there used to be a hack where you would put some super glue or some clear nail polish on some of the joints, let it dry or whatever, so it would add like an extra layer, and then when you would put it back in the socket, it would be a little bit more stiffer. Obviously, you don't want to put it wet, put it in the socket, because this is just going to glue in place, and now your doll's just stuck. But there were different things like that that came about. And during this time frame is when a certain individual started, how should I say, walking around with dolls and kind of like showing this hobby of dolls to an audience that no one in that audience has ever seen. And that person's name is Danny Chu. And Danny Chu started collecting Dolphy Dreams. And, he I don't know if he even likes me telling this story, to be honest. I didn't run it by him, if I'm being fair. But it's not like it's a secret. It's all over the place. I mean, if you really wanted to look it up, you'll find it. But he used to be a huge fan of Dolphy Dream. And when he reached the point in his creative stream, his creative times, as a creator, and at that time, a producer, a blogger, a collaborator with many different organizations, he decided he wanted to make his own doll. And this was during the Dolphy Dream DD3 era of its lifespan. And he collected a lot of Volks dolls. Like, he had so many. And I'm going to show you an example a little bit later on in the stream. But he had so many of them, and he really loved them a lot. And I guess for whatever reason, and I don't know the actual reasons, and I never really bothered to ask him exactly what it was, but he decided to create his own dolls. And, he started to create Smart Doll. And with the emergence of Smart Doll, and because the way Smart Doll was, the way it was designed, the way it looked, it really changed the game for dolls, or for BJDs, on the aesthetic of the doll. It still had your original Mirai, your original Chitose that you see with me today. They still have their anime aesthetics because his history is very steeped in anime, is Danny Chu's history. And I want to say that, during this time frame when he decided to create his dolls, he wasn't shy of sharing everything. And I want to say even till this day, he's not shy of sharing every step of the process and showing us and giving us more access to what he does. Because before then, we only had Volks. Well, sort of. There was also A-Zone. But A-Zone and Volks is your typical mass production business, right? Like, they make things, they sort of listen to feedback from the community, but they mostly make things, put things out, they sell, they make a lot of money. But they're not really so open to where they're like, oh, come see how we do it. This is our sales figures. This is why we do this. This is the reason why we chose this. They don't really share those things. They make something, they advertise it, they sell it to you, they make money, that's it. That's basically how a lot of businesses practice. I'm not just trying to call out Volks for their business. Most companies do that. Not many companies actually give you the ins and outs of how they do things. But again, I digress. The reason why I'm saying this is because he shares all these things, and it has influenced other doll companies. And from his designs and from his international appeal, because before making dolls, he had a huge international appeal, vlogging about his daily life in Japan, vlogging about anime. He was very big in the anime community with the JC staff, with Good Smile Company, and many other myriad companies before he even started with dolls. So within that anime community, he already had that international outreach. He used to DJ or MC for many conventions throughout Asia. So, with those connections came international appeal. And with that international appeal, when he started making his doll, brought international notoriety to the hobby of BJDs, or anime dolls, as I like to call them. And the reason why I say this, again, is because his dolls and his company have influenced how the game is played now within the doll community, company-wise. And here's an example of that. This is the DDIF, or affectionately known as DD3 body. You have two different versions of this picture. On this far left is the newest iteration of the body, the DDF3 cubed, 2.0. Okay? And then these two corresponding pictures to the right of it. This first one is the spine and torso. Well, they're both the spine and torso. On this thing, the DDIF, or the DDF3, this is how it looked. It's very blocky. Very much so. The spine is kind of put together in like chains, like how like bike chains are kind of put together. You have loops upon loops and then screws that hold them in the middle for where they want to pivot. Now you see here with DDF3, they're more ball jointed aspect. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Wait, did I count that? Excuse me, did I count that right? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 4. Sorry, we have 4 ball joints. I can't count. We have 4 ball joints in the spine. This gave it more mobility, more posability. And you can see here the little gridlocks here also give it its stopping forms, kind of like haptic feedback. But it doesn't really do the same thing as haptic feedback, but it gives it like little stopping points, okay? This is heavily influenced by Danny Chu and his style of reference. You can see the neck joint is pretty much the same, but you also have a lot more easily accessible screw points, where you can easily see that you can tighten these screws to tighten up your joints. Whereas these on the DDF3, they weren't really screws per se. Like, there are screws in certain places, but a lot of them were riveted. So some of the points you can't tighten because it's like a rivet. If you don't know what a rivet is, it's kind of like this metal rod that goes into like a flat surface thingy, and they cut off the tip, and then you can't move it anymore. It's like permanent. You can't get rid of it unless like you cut it off or something. So there's no way of tightening, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And you can see that within this spine here, it's heavily influenced from the Smart Doll's look, and I will show you that. This is, again, another one. It's very hard for you to see, I understand, because of all the stupid stars that are in the way, but it is the same thing. And then if you look at this, this is Smart Doll's internal frame. This is the first one, the first iteration back in 2013 when they launched. You see the many ball jointed spine here that gave it such unparalleled mobility and posability compared to their competitors, or comparatively to their competitors. And that brought a lot of really cool aspects on how you can, I guess you could say, play with your dolls, pose your dolls, interact with your dolls. The only thing that Danny Chu did not want to do, and he still keeps it till this day, is he does not allow the legs and the knees to bend more than 90 degrees, because it doesn't like the sight or the vision that it gives off when you could see the inside of the joints sticking out when you bend it too far. And that's one thing that is a focus of their company and of their design philosophy that they just haven't changed since. I don't think they're ever going to change it, but you never know. Things evolve, and that's kind of part of the reason why we're doing this episode today, is the evolution of dolls, how they have changed. And you could see the change here, influencing this spinal column for Smart Doll. For the most part, the arms are the same. The shoulder joint sockets are pretty much the same. You know, the hips are pretty much the same, other than the fact that Smart Doll has much bigger cylindrical hips for movement. How much more it impedes is debatable at best. We have an ad. At least it was 10 minutes this time and not every 30 seconds. Okay. That should be 5 seconds. You could see here that this lots of ball jointed spine is the big difference, I would say, you know, between the two. And going back to the other picture, you can definitely see it here. DDF3, the heyday, the previous highlight of Volk's career in Dolphy Dream. And then you see the new one that is influenced after like seeing Danny Chu's stuff. Now, obviously, you for copyright reasons, I believe, or maybe they thought this was better, but it's not exactly the same. But you could definitely see the introduction of ball joints in the spine, and not just one in the bend for the torso, but multiple for the head, for the neck, the bust, and 2 pieces for the lower torso. So it's definitely an influence that has come about with the emergence of Danny Chu and Smart Doll. So let me see. I'm gonna bring it back to you guys in chat, because I know you guys have been popping off. Let's see. So Barbie Witch says there was a blonde and a brunette. Yes, the blonde the brunette was Yukino. The black-haired one was Mirai. I can't remember who the blonde was. Like, Candy is blonde, but Candy came later in the Dolphy Dream lifespan. Let's see. I'm going through. A lot of people have been commenting, just agreeing with what I'm saying. Hold on. Barbie Witch says that she found a blog today making reference to Danny's Dolphy Dream collection, old days. Yeah, yeah, he had a huge collection. Let's see. There was a Naoto custom someone made with Rise. I like that one a lot. I'm not familiar with Persona, so forgive me if I don't know the character names when you reference them. I only know of Rise because she's the doll. Marie Velez agrees. She remembers those years. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Don't speak of it. There are events that happen. They just aren't struck from the historical record. They happened. It's in there. If you really wanted to deep dive, you'll find it. The history of Danny Chu and his collection of Dolphy Dreams. It's there. Let's see. This goes to show competition breeds a better product. You're absolutely right, PNB Sakura. I mean, without competition, you have stagnancy. Like, everybody's just creating the same thing. There's just one product, everybody follows suits. Without someone to challenge the status quo, there is no growth. Regardless if the challenge is right or wrong or good or bad, any form of challenge makes the status quo what's the word? Not revitalize, but review itself. There's a word for it. Reevaluate. That's what I'm saying. Reevaluate itself. It makes the status quo reevaluate itself to say, hey, you know, we're not the only game in town. Other people are trying to reproduce, or some other people are trying to break our mold that we have established. And PNB Sakura is right. With competition, it breeds a better product. And because of Danny Chu creating something like this that pretty much changes the game, you know, it has heavily influenced the market. And I really do want to emphasize that I feel like it is, in my personal opinion, it has something to do with Danny Chu and his team and whatever it is that they're doing in the hobby right now, because it's not like Danny and Volks are the only companies. You know, you had other companies out there that were trying to do vinyl dolls at the time. Grenado Doll at one point tried to do vinyl dolls, although they have a very particular look to Grenado dolls for their vinyl dolls, but they were very cool, but they didn't sell very well. Now, that may be because of lack of knowledge of the doll, lack of international marketing, because I'll tell you, I did not even know about Grenado Doll until I had to really deep dive and research all different kinds of vinyl dolls. It's not like it was in your face. Like Smart Doll is very much so in your face. It's all over Twitter. It's all over Instagram. Danny Chu posts all the time. He's very active in his community. Other doll companies are like that too. But like I said, because Danny Chu had this international appeal already established from his blog, from his anime connections, it reached a wider audience. Whereas if you had doll companies that are very well established, like Ipple House, like Grenado Doll, like Ring Doll, like Volks, who are very well established within their own respective niche, they don't really advertise out of that niche too much. I wouldn't say that they don't do it at all, but they don't do it that much. Not to the level that Danny Chu and his team has taken things. So I really feel like what they have done here has changed how the companies are now doing their stuff, and a lot of companies are following suit. Let's talk about A-Zone. A-Zone is another company that have made dolls very much so akin or in line with Volks. They're two very different companies, two separate companies, two separate dolls, two separate types of vinyl, two separate types of internal skeletons. They're not the same, but they are the same with the respect of the fact that A-Zone heavily invests in their IP products, okay? IP products such as this one here, Tosaka. Now, there are many, many lines within the A-Zone brand. You know, you have Pure Nemo line, you have Kiki Pop, you have what is it called? Iris Collect, Iris Petite, CCT, Active Hybrid. Like, there are so many different lines within A-Zone, but one commonality amongst the majority of those lines are anime collaborated dolls. Whether it's a Pure Nemo, whether it's a CCT, an Active Hybrid. What's that other one called? Realistic character. Like, they're all anime collaborated characters. Now, that is following in suit to what Volks does also. Volks heavily, for their vinyl line, heavily relies upon their IP products. They do have their own standard line of dolls, their own original characters, but majority of their sales and the majority of what they sell is pretty much their IP characters, which has changed over the years. Let me be clear, with the emergence of Smart Doll again, because this all ties in together. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a second. So let me finish this A-Zone riff here. So the IP characters are very important, but what happens is now that you see from A-Zone, they're making a lot more sales now, not in their IP characters. They're still around, and I think the hardest hitting or the most selling characters that are collaborated from A-Zone come from the 1/6 Pure Nemo line. That's where their bread and butter is when it comes to collaborations, because now with their 1/4 scale and their 1/3 scale dolls, which are roughly the same size as Dolphy Dreams and Smart Dolls, they are heavily invested in original characters. You're seeing them release more and more every day of Iris Collect, Iris Petite characters, Happy Clover characters. These are all original OC characters from A-Zone, very much so like how Danny Chu does. When Danny Chu jumped in the scene, he started with his own OC or original characters, the Mirai Millennium cast, which again, we'll talk about as we get to the Smart Doll section of this program or this episode. He had very much so sold a lot of OC characters. He very shortly and smallly dabbed in collaborated characters. Out of the three major companies, him, Volks, and A-Zone, he has the least amount of IP characters. Now, you can make an argument is because he couldn't get the rights, is because his heart wasn't really in it, is because that's not really what he was focused on. Whatever excuse or whatever belief you want to feel contributes to that factor or that aspect of his business, you cannot deny the fact that he still heavily favors his original characters, because he's a creative. Danny Chu is a creative, and it doesn't mean that A-Zone or Volks does not have creative people in their staff. They definitely do. But speaking of Danny Chu himself, he is very much so a creative, and he makes something and he moves on to another thing because he doesn't want to become stagnant. He doesn't want to be the status quo. He's always challenging himself. And that really encapsulate itself with OC characters, because when you do IPs or collaborated characters, you're beholden to the rules and the ideology of the original companies or the IP's preferences of that character. He can be as creative as he wants in making the character, and then the IP holders will just come back and say, nope, don't want it like that, change it. You know what I mean? And that, that hampers your creative freedom. So it's no surprise that he sells way more independent OC characters, and other companies are seeing this. Volks is seeing this, A-Zone is seeing this, and aside from Volks, A-Zone is pushing their own original characters. When it comes to Volks, they're not really pushing original characters per se, but what they are pushing more now than they were before is their Dolphy Dream choice, your ability to make your own doll. And the D-Cord line is getting ever more popular as the years go on. Now, you can make an argument, too, that D-Cord is only popular because of its rarity, more so than the characters themselves. But regardless of what you want to think, they do advertise it more than they used to. It used to be that nobody even knew D-Cord existed unless you frequented Japan. But now they advertise it a little bit more. You see it on their Instagram. You see it on their Twitter page or their X page. You see it even advertised on Volks USA from time to time. They'll have D-Cord lottery sales. So they are pushing original characters in that respect. But, don't bite the hand that feeds you. I mean, IP characters have been doing so well for them. And they're the only ones right now that get so many different IPs working with them compared to the other companies. So, what works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, so to speak. And now, with the A-Zone characters, also there has been a change. On the left of this screen, which chat is kind of blocking a little bit, hopefully you guys can see it. I tried to make this as clear as I could, but you could see on the left, this is their current AZO2 body. And on the right, this is their new body called the QZ body. This was recently just released. It was announced years ago, but it was recently just released now. You can see the difference between the two. The original AZO2 bodies from A-Zone very much so look like a Dolphy Dream. The bust and torso are very much so identical to a Dolphy Dream. The neck piece is very different. The neck piece is unique to A-Zone. No one else, as far as I know, have this neck piece. But another thing that was unique to A-Zone that sort of changed the game, but not much, was their joints. So they have double jointed elbows and knees. This gave them way more mobility and posability than Volks ever did. And now you're thinking, well, if that's the case, why didn't they change the game before Smart Doll did? If they had way more posability and way more, movability than Volks does, why didn't this take off? So, point number one, they're ugly. Now, I own an A-Zone doll and I love my doll very much, but the joints themselves, I don't know if you guys can see it in this picture, the double joints are ugly. And when you pull the arms together like this, to make your elbow like this, it pokes out in a way that just looks ugly. It looks like you have a kneecap. Now, your knees obviously have a kneecap anatomically. Your elbows do have kind of a little cap here, sort of. It's more so your bone than a cap, but it kind of looks like one. So it's not like it's anatomically incorrect. It just didn't, it just didn't look right. And when it's open like this, I was trying to get in the camera. When your arm is open like this, you could see in the picture here, hopefully, can you see my mouse? Right here in the open part of the elbow, you can see this S-shape indentation, which is where the bends are for the double joints. And the knees, when the knees bend, the kneecaps protrude out so much that it's just kind of unsightly. Also, this double jointed elbows and knees, they kind of wore out really fast. And there was no way to really fix them unless you bought a whole new doll. So those aspects altogether didn't really win A-Zone's favor with the community, and more people just continued to buy Volks. It doesn't mean A-Zone products were really that bad. I know I'm making it sound like it's horrible, but they're not. They're still good products. They're just different. But the difference wasn't big enough to make a change or a splash in the community. It didn't threaten Volks either for Volks to have to say that, oh, we need to change our stuff because other people are getting close to what we have or copying what we have. It's just not really the case. But you could see here on the right with the QZ body, this looks like a Smart Doll body. Mind you, miniature, because the QZ is 1/6 in scale. It's a much smaller doll than Smart Doll, and it's something that a lot of people in the Smart Doll community have been asking for, is a smaller Smart Doll, like a 1/4 scale or a 1/6 scale, which Danny Chu has teased with us with Pocket Doll, but Pocket Doll has not been released as of yet. We've seen a lot of different prototypes. We've had a Pocket Doll mannequin released for some lucky individuals, but for the most part, it hasn't really been released retail. I'll give you guys a break for a second because we have 10 seconds, and then there's going to ad coming up, and then we'll continue with the explanation. But hopefully, you guys finding this interesting so far. But Tempest Strife is right in the comments where she says they could bend the back way more than the DD ever could, and that's true. The Smart Dolls could. They could bend a lot more than the DD could from the torso aspect of it. Okay, so going back, you can see here the QZ body is heavily influenced with the Smart Doll body. They even do the way that the legs are formed the same, where it got rid of the whole kneecap thing and they just kind of put this long edge here. Now, it does differ when they bend their knees. You still see some sort of a kneecap, but at least it's hidden when it's standing straight. The elbows, you notice it got rid of the double jointed elbows and now has a singular ball joint that extends out of the socket when you move your arm all the way up, much like a Dolphy Dream or Smart Doll does now. The head part is still unique to A-Zone. This is definitely a different head shape or neck piece that grabs onto the head that is different than both companies. So they still kept that part of their dolls unique and only to themselves. So let's see. Hold on. I don't want to jump too far ahead and then get you guys all riled up. Okay. So yeah, I just needed to double check my slides. Sorry, guys. Marie Velez says, A-Zone dolls are beautiful, but the joints made me nervous. They feel like the joint is going to break. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I 100% agree with Marie, but I do understand what you mean by that. So let me explain for those that are not familiar. So the joints in A-Zone bodies, they are a little bit more delicate because they're at a smaller scale. And because they're at a smaller scale, like, it's not super small, but it's definitely smaller, than Volks or Smart Doll. It tends to lead to their skeletons inside being thinner because of the smaller scale size. And they do feel a little bit more weak. But I have to say that in moving my A-Zone dolls as much as I have, which I don't do as much as maybe the average person, so far, she's holding up pretty strong. They haven't gotten as loose as I thought they would, or from the horror stories I heard from other people that they would. And that may just because of me as the owner not using it as much as the average user. So take it for what you will as a grain of salt. If you're the type of person that likes to pose a lot or take your dolls out a lot, then maybe you would get more wear and tear out of your dolls and the joints will wear out faster. But for me, for the most part, all my dolls are still kept in a display case, and the only doll that comes out with me pretty much everywhere is Chitose. So Chitose gets most wear and tear than all my dolls. But I have to say, if you don't use them as much and you mostly just keep them as a display piece, they pretty much hold up fairly well so far. I think the plastic is different. You're right, the plastic is different. I forgot the name of it. Volks never told us the name of their plastic, but Smart Doll definitely uses a special kind of plastic. I don't remember the name, but it is on the website if you look at it. It's a special kind of plastic that is hardened and stiffened to the point where it's not so easy to snap. And if you've ever built a Smart Doll on your own in the earlier days, or if you built a Cortex in the earlier days, you can definitely feel it in a lot of the pieces. They're pretty stiff. And obviously the thinner areas are going to be not as stiff as the thicker areas, but they are stiff comparatively to their counterparts or the other companies. But you are right, Marie Velez. The plastic is different, and the wear and tear on those plastic pieces are definitely different. And now, we've talked about Dolphy Dream, and we've talked about A-Zone, and how Smart Doll has influenced them in their design aspects. Not only in their design aspects, whereas, the thank you, Tempest, Asiflex. That's what it's called, Asiflex. Thank you very much, Tempest. I knew somebody would remember that. Of course, it's going to be Tempest. So you see how Smart Doll coming onto the scene for the DD3 era. Now, this is early 2011, 2012 era, 2013 era. You could see the influence already once they have joined the scene, how it has changed the game for the other two major companies. Volks has changed their internal skeleton and has changed it since then twice. Now we have the DDF3 and the DDF 2.0 F3. A-Zone has now changed its internal skeleton to the QZ body. More specifically, they're changing it for their smaller dolls first, I think, as a test bed. And if they do well, they're going to probably adopt them into the larger bodies for their 1/3 scale dolls. Now, not only does design philosophy-wise have they changed their anatomy or makeup of dolls, but also their selection of dolls have changed. Not so much for Volks, like I already explained, as Volks is still king when it comes to collaborated dolls, but they are now advertising more OC characters than they used to, with the Dream Choice, the D-Chord, and even more importantly, recently, with their Dolphy Icon lineup, because none of those are collaborated, those are original characters. Kind of harkening back to the days of, I shouldn't say harkening back to the days because it's still around, but the resin side of the Volks hobby, they are now combining the popularity of resin, or the design aspects of resin, and mixing it with vinyl, and now you have Dolphy Icon, giving a very unique look, a very original character look, and I think it's doing really well right now for what they're doing. Same thing with A-Zone. A-Zone heavily favored IP collaborations for their dolls, and now are pushing more OC characters. And obviously from a business standpoint, it's more money for them, because they don't have to pay the IP licenses for those other companies to make their dolls. So everything stays, all the money stays in-house. So it's even better for them anyways. So you see them pushing a lot more for their Happy Clover line, their Iris Collect lines, their Kiki Pop lines, and even their little mini, the Pico minis that they call them, because those are OC characters as well. You have the Pico lines too, with like characters like Biscotti and things like that. So you definitely see that influence of Smart Doll on selling original characters, and how that really influenced the other two companies as well. It also, Smart Doll's creative engineering with their spine, with their internal skeleton, have also spawned other companies to come out of the woodworks, like Tiny Fox. Companies like Dollbot and the like are now making their own vinyl-esque, plastic-esque style dolls, using the model that Danny Chu has laid out with his company. Because again, he's not secretive on how he makes his doll. He shows you everything, and people are taking note and following suit. Now, whether or not Smart Doll will remain king right now, because, I hate to use that term because that makes it sound like Smart Doll's better than all the other companies, which is not necessarily the case. They're just different. They have a different philosophy, a different way of doing things, and right now it's pretty much picking up steam, and a lot of the popularity is really focusing on Smart Doll right now. If you ask anybody 10 years ago, like a decade ago, about dolls, nobody would really know what ball jointed dolls were. The people in the community knew, but if you ask random people what this doll is, most of them will think it's creepy. Most of them will think, is it some sort of Barbie? Is it like a Chucky or something like that? It isn't until the popularity of Smart Doll taking off on the international community, and its owners, its Smart Doll owners, taking to the streets, taking to the conventions with their dolls, going out in public with their dolls, and just, all the Instagram posts and showing off their dolls, that, nowadays, and I've said this many times on my channel, nowadays, when you walk around with a doll, regardless if it's an A-Zone, Smart Doll, or Dolphy Dream, you run into random people and they'll see it, and it's happened to me. They're like, oh, look, it's Smart Doll, when really I'm carrying your Stola around, which is a Dolphy Dream. But they see it, and they instantly now think Smart Doll. It used to be, at least if people recognized it, they'll be like, oh, that's a Dolphy Dream. And in the beginning, all of my smart dolls got mistaken for Dolphy Dreams. They're like, oh, that's a Dolphy Dream, right? I'm like, no, it's a smart doll. Now it has reversed. Now I'll walk around with Dolphy Dreams and they'll be like, oh, is that a smart doll? I'll be like, no, it's a Dolphy Dream. And surprisingly enough, people are like, what's a Dolphy Dream? Like, smart doll has definitely taken the world by storm right now. And from an international aspect or social aspect, they are more recognizable now than any other doll brand. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're making more money or everybody loves their dolls more. It's just more recognizable. People have seen them more. People know what it is more now when they see it. They don't necessarily know the ins and outs of it, but they'll be like, hey, I heard something. Is not one of those smart doll thingies? You know, you get that more now than you did a decade ago. So with that being said, let's go on to the kahuna themselves. Let's talk about smart doll, right? And before I change the slide over to the smart doll slide, let me just catch up with the rest of you in chat. Let's see. Marie Velez says, my first Iris Collect Petite, I broke one of the feet at the joint as I pulled the doll out of the box. True story. Ooh, that sucks, Marie Velez. Wait, how did you break it though? They should slide off much like a Dolphy Dream or Smart Doll, and you should be able to slide it back on. So I'm kind of curious how it broke. Did it get... Because I know when they package their A-Zones, they package them in that weird like triangle cardboard shape thing, like an egg crate. So did it get stuck in one of those like egg crate like holes and then it just kind of snapped off? Which, again, I kind of feel like that's kind of hard to do because it's still cardboard, so it should give way. But I'd like more context to that. I don't doubt you. I'm just curious how it happened. Key Clark says a small doll made of Cortex would be great. Cortex, he did say that a long time ago with Cortex 1, was that the possibility of this scaled down was much more feasible than vinyl. He didn't say it was easy. He just said it was more feasible. Now, whether or not he's going to continue with that belief and one day make a smaller version of Smart Dolls using the Cortex model, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any plans about that whatsoever. But I do vaguely remember him mentioning something about scalability with Cortex. It's just that Cortex 1 was a success and a failure at the same time, that he probably just didn't feel at that moment it was worth pursuing a smaller version of Cortex. But now with Cortex 2... we'll see when he finally releases it. We'll see how sales go and see how things are with the community and what kind of feedback people give. And if it's positive, if it's good, maybe he'll think about scaling. But for right now, everything as far as I know is still going to be at 1/3 scale. Barbie Witch says, I missed the keyword Cortex and also wouldn't have known the right answer. Christina says, hi there, hope you're all having a great night. Christina Kowald, welcome to the stream. Christina, it's good to see you in the stream again. Danny just posts new pictures of Cortex picture. Wow, would love to get a gray one. He's been posting a lot of pictures of those Cortex. I like the gray one, but I'm actually falling more in love with the white one. And the only reason why I say that is that the white version of Cortex 2 reminds me of Battle Angel Alita. Like her first body, not the new body where she got it later on in the movie that was like made of that special metal, but I'm talking about the original body that looked like kind of like bone in a way. It was very like porcelain bone-ish. Like it kind of reminds me of that, and I really dig that look. Key Clark says, I don't own a smart doll, but I think that brand made me want one. And you're not alone on that, Key Clark. Smart doll, like I said, because of Danny Chu's way that he markets things, I mean, he already had a leg up in being in the international community through anime, but the way he markets his company is different than all the other companies. And when I say all the others, like let's say VODS and A-Zone, they don't market their things internationally as well or let's say to the same level as Danny does with his company. They also don't travel as much. Danny goes to Europe, Danny goes to the US, and peddles his wares wherever he goes. So, Evokes has a US store, but the only event they attend is Anime Expo, and that usually is every year. But during the pandemic, they missed a year or two, but they're usually at Anime Expo. They came to Anime NYC only once, and then that's it. So they don't really travel around, and they don't really share their IPs with other places. Like there are no stores that carry Volks products. Only Volks carries Volks. So, that whole marketing strategy, while it works for them and, and they keep everything in-house, it also doesn't help growth as much. And I think the only reason why their community grows or the knowledge of their product grows is from influencers. Not just myself, but any other people from Twitter or X or Instagram or YouTube, showing off their products, and then other people Googles it and finds it somehow, like I did. I was just Googling figures and statues, and the very first Dolphy Dream I ever saw showed up with an Asuna, and that was it. It went all downhill from there. But I had to find it through other means. You know what I mean? I didn't find it from Volks themselves. Ad breaks coming in 20 seconds. I could have sworn I delayed it for 10 minutes. Has it been 10 minutes already? Jeez. All right. Well, 15 seconds for another ad break. Let me take a water break. Oh boy. Let me check my settings here, my stream settings. We're looking good. Stream's going good. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm fanboying here over Smart Doll, but if you really look at the brass tacks, like if you really look at the changes and the trends and the fluctuations between the doll companies and how the community's weighing, you can't deny the fact that Smart Doll had an influence in one shape or form on how things are today within the doll community. Even other dolls, like what's another good example that I just found out, like Bratz dolls. Like the Bratz dolls were very much so akin to Barbie dolls, like the way that their bodies were kind of like shorted out, like made or sorted. Now I am no way, shape, or form an authority in Bratz dolls or anything like that. I've only seen a few. I know Tempest in chat owns a bunch of them. But I recently saw a picture of a new Bratz doll. It was on an advertisement for Target or something like that. And I saw it and I looked at the body, and the body looks like a miniature Smart Doll. It no longer looked like the way that it used to look with I guess the best way to describe it is a Western style doll like Barbie, where the way the ball joints were, they were very much so like a ball per se that kind of had like a little joint to make it move like this on the inside. It's not the same as the ball joints that we have now in BJD. So the way they changed it is it very much so looks like a miniature BJD now, like a 1/3 scale doll. Now, whether you want to take the influence from Dolphy Dream or from Smart Doll or from A-Zone, take your pick. But it is undeniable that other doll companies now, even in the West, are following suit. So there has been, for better or for worse, this influence following from Danny Chu's company or Danny Chu's mantra. Let's see. PMB Sakura says Smart Doll was a gateway drug to the BJD hobby for me. I'm curious. I don't think I asked you PMB before. Can you verify if you're okay with verifying it? Did your first doll? Was your first doll a Smart Doll or was it a Dolphy Dream? Because I know you own both, but I think I don't remember if I asked which one you got first. But judging from your statement, it sounds like Smart Doll was first. Marie Velez says, so once the doll was out of the box, one foot was twisted. So as I am straightening out, the joint snapped. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like how, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So sometimes when they package the dolls, they kind of take, instead of the feet facing this way, they face them out like this, right? Like off to the sides. I think I understand where you're going with this. And then it got caught and it got snapped, I think. Okay, so I see what you're saying. Christina Kowalt says, wow, yes, Battle Angel Danny, need to do one of her, plus a second movie is coming. Love the first one. Is a second movie coming? Because I know they were in talks for a second movie, and there's always rumors that there was going to be a second movie, but I don't know if it's like really coming or not. But I would love that, because I never read the manga, which apparently spans way more than what we know in the movie, but the manga, the movie was really cool. I enjoyed it. But some people say, like, the people that are purists, that are manga purists, say they hated the movie. But since I never read the manga and my only exposure to Battle Angel was the anime movie years ago, and then this movie, and I absolutely love it. So whatever. Barbie Witch says, before they had a retail presence in the US, there was a doll store in Florida who carried Volks dolls. I got my first Super Dolphy from them. Really? This was in 2004. Okay. So I didn't know that, because I know that Volks has, what's the right word for them? Satellite stores. But there was one that I know of, or two that I know of, that was in Asia. I didn't know they had any in Europe or in America. But according to what you're saying, there was one, but I guess it's gone now. So I guess at some point, but again, whatever Volks products they shared with another retailer, it seems to have been, from what you're telling me, it was Resin. So I think during vinyl's lifetime, I don't know anyone else that carried vinyl other than Volks. And this other store in Malaysia, I forgot their name, but there was a store in Malaysia. I don't know if they still carry Volk stuff, but I remember they had Volk stuff that they were selling. And this was way back when I was doing research on trying to figure out how to buy a Volk doll before I even got my first one. I found a store in Asia. I think it was like Malaysia that was selling stuff. But the problem is that they wouldn't sell it to me because they don't ship internationally. So that kind of sucked. But when it comes to Volks, I think international website is probably the best place to get things. And secondary, I would say go and try out the Volks USA website. But Volks USA only caters to the United States or Canada. I think they do South America too, but I'm not entirely sure. Marie Velez says, thank God I purchased her through Fabric Friends. Iris contacted A-Zone and they sent me a new lower leg part. Oh, that's good. That's great. Thank God for Fabric and Friends. PMV Soccer says, first doll was Smart Doll Julia, then came Infinity because Julia needed a friend. That's how it always happens, PMV. That's how it happens. They need a friend. They can't be alone. Oh my goodness. But I know now that PMV Soccer, I know you have Smart Dolls, and I know you have like your Volks collaborations, because I know you're Konosuba. I know you love your Konosuba stuff, so I know you have that. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the Smart Doll side of things. Let's talk about Smart Doll. What is there to talk about Smart Doll? Because I feel like most of my audience here knows everything there is to know about Smart Doll. But let's try and see if we can cover something a bit more, okay? Now, going back to the slides. Smart Doll came out and they had their original line of dolls. Now remember, I told you guys that Dainichi was very heavily influenced at the time of anime. He's huge into the background of anime. You know, anime is the reason why he's even in Japan now. Like he loved anime as a kid. He learned Japanese, moved to Japan at some point. There's a couple things that happened in between there, but ultimately he moved to Japan. He started working with a lot of companies in Japan. He started doing a lot of stuff, and all those companies were mostly anime related. So when he started his company, it's no surprise that his dolls were anime, stylized. They were basically anime dolls, as I keep calling them. And the first dolls, which we now affectionately call the classic dolls with the classic body style, you had the Mirai Millennium cast was his first group. There were a couple individuals in between that weren't really part of Mirai Millennium, but kind of tried to fit them in there. And then you had skin tone colors. He changed the game with skin tone colors, because for the longest time, Volks and A-Zone mostly did what they dubbed normal skin, which they now dub flesh, which now some companies like A-Zone dub whitey or super whitey. You have Volks with their flesh, their tan, and their semi-white and their white. But it wasn't until you had Smart Doll come out that you had something akin to Coco. And Coco was your very first dark complexion skin doll. And originally the first Coco looked like this. It was more purple than it was Coco. And eventually, after tinkering with the formula of their vinyl, they came out with the Coco that we have today. But, they were the first to kind of popularize or mass produce this type of cocoa. Now, it doesn't mean that these skin tone colors never existed before. Resin has had it before. Volks had a version of tea before, or their version of tan before, with an anime collaborated character known as Kano from Ikitosen, which is one of my favorite characters. I wish I had that doll. I really want a Kano doll, but I digress. That was one of their very first tan skin dolls, and it was only available through that collaboration. And they didn't do many collaborations with tan. I think Kano was the first, and you didn't get any more until... Oh, I'm trying to dig back in the archives of my brain. I don't think you got any tan anime collabor dolls until we got to Anthe Himamiya, I think. And most of their tan girls were held in the D-Cord line. So, tan wasn't something that was widely available from Volks. And even Azone themselves, they had one tan doll, which was, I can't remember her name. It's either Yuki or Yukari or something like that, from their Happiness Clover line. And she was the only doll in tan. And she's super rare to this day to get. Although they did do another new tan version doll with the new girls. I forgot their name, the cat girls. They're twins. One had like gray hair, one had silver hair. But that was another tan. But they don't do too many in tan. But Danny Chu and Smart Doll is, I want to say, out of all the vinyl companies, the first to mass produce, quote unquote, tan and cocoa skin dolls. And that's another change in the game, because now we have tea, we have cocoa, and soon to be coffee. You see the change in other companies. Azone brought back tan with the new doll, the cat girl dolls. I can't remember their names for the life of me. But if David's in here, David would know, because David has one. And then with Volks, they started to bring back the tan skin dolls again through not only D-Cord and Dolphy Dream Choice, but in their anime collaborated dolls with figures like Anthe Himamiya and also other characters like Yustola, which Yustola is a tan skin. She's not actually cinnamon. Some people think she's cinnamon, but she's actually tan. She is a tan skin doll. And it's hard to tell nowadays because everybody's so used to tan or tea from Smart Doll that now when you see tan from Dolphy Dream, you're like, that's not tan. That's cinnamon. That's not tan. but in their terms, or in their terminology of Volks, that is a tan doll. So you see that coming about. And then Danny Chu did another thing, which again is not unseen in the doll hobby. It's very popularized in resin, but you don't see it in vinyl until Danny, which you have fantasy colors. So he did his first interstellar blue, and then we had galactic gray, then we had black navy, and now we're getting galaxy green at some point he's working on. So you see these fantasy colors coming out, and okay, Azone doesn't follow suit yet, but Volks did. Volks saw the popularity of these colored dolls, or these fantasy colored dolls, and now we have Icon. And they one-upped it. For better or worse, some people don't like it, some people do. They one-upped it with Dolphy Dream Icon, and they brought in Mint, which is green. They brought in Petal, which is their, like, I guess, semi-white. Tawny, which is another tan version. And then you had Lilac, which was purple. They don't have a blue, not yet, but they picked colors that Danny didn't have at the time. So Danny had blue, he's working on gray, so they came out with purple, and they came out with green. Or pastel green. Now Danny's doing a green, but his is a different kind of green. But that's whatever. That's topic for another day. But because Smart Doll came out with fantasy colors and they saw the popularity of it, I guess Volk started to jump on the bandwagon. And now they're following suit, and they one-upped it by having their fantasy colors, but with sparkles in the skin. So now they have glittery skin for those dolls. Then they one-upped it again and said, well, let's make it different, and let's not make it a total copy off or following suit. Instead of anime heads, let's give them resin heads and get our resin people into the vinyl hobby as well. And let's get some cross compatibility, some cross pollination, so to speak, because up until this point, resin people and vinyl people were two separate peoples. Now, there were people in between that collected both, but for the most part, the majority of vinyl people stayed on one side and the majority of resin people stay on the other side. And this still continues today for the most part. When you go to doll meets, when you go to doll conventions, the resins and the vinyl people, they either stay far apart or they collect both and they meet somewhere in the middle. But for the most part, there still is one side over the other. And Volks kind of meshed them together by doing Dolphy Icon, and Dolphy Icon is doing really, really well. The popularity for Icon is through the roof, and now with their new Rock and Rollers version of Dolphy Icon, people are falling head over heels over it. And I think coming this September, when Dolpa releases and people start showing their Rock and Rollers in Instagram and YouTube or whatever, I think it's going to even garner more appeal just because of the style of it. Not only is it an icon, not only is it sparkly skin, but we're bringing back the 50s pinup girl, which a lot of people love. Like stylistically or artistically, a lot of people love that style. Maybe it wasn't too highly looked upon back in the day, but nowadays it's considered very stylistic, very chic, very sexy, I guess you could say. Very cool and trendy. And, you know, Volks jumped on that bandwagon and is riding it right now with all the success it's doing, you know, for the meantime. Well, whether or not it'll keep that success in long term, we don't know. There's no way to judge that. Is it 10 minutes already? Another ad. Wow, time goes by fast when you keep talking. I'll give it a break. I'll give it a break real quick. Like I'm watching the timer here. I keep hitting delay and it says 10 minutes, but then it keeps popping up that it's almost done. I'm like, 10 minutes already? All right. So anyways, you had the popularity of Smart Doll, not only the influence in OC characters, not only the influence in the design aspect of their internal skeletons, but now the influence in their skin tone colors as well. And you're seeing that change in the market. You're seeing that change from at least from my personal aspect from 2013 to 2024 is a huge shift of Dolphy Dream dominance to Smart Doll dominance, from one skin tone color proprietary to multiple skin tone colors. Non-flexibility, well, they had good flexibility, but to like even more flexibility. It's all these different things spawning from one company, one influence, changing the market, just like how Tesla is doing today. You know, whether you agree that Teslas are good cars or not, it has changed the market where everything is now electric. You never had LCD screens in cars before to the way that it is now. And when you did, they were kind of like built-in LCD screens into your dashboards. Now, a lot of people are adopting the whole thing where it's just a TV screen hanging off the dash. Tesla started that. Automatic opening doors, door sills that slide in, electronic cars, like, fully battery operated cars. All the other companies are following suit. So, all it takes is one company to challenge the status quo. And if that challenge is good and for the better, or, at least turns heads, other people reevaluate themselves. And it is debatable, and it is a whole different topic talking about cars, but just very quick and very short. We don't know how long electric cars will be, and it's already starting to change where people have had enough, and not many people are buying as many electric cars anymore. Most people are buying hybrids. Like a lot of cars are doing hybrids now where like the gas engine recharges the battery, or at least extends the battery life. Hybrids have always been around, but they're repopularizing now because people are fed up with having to wait 2 hours to charge their car and not getting the same distance. Also, there's now that Tesla's been around for a while, a number of years, we can actually start talking about long-term feasibility. Are these batteries holding up? Are these cars holding up? Can you even fix them? Because remember, you could take a 1950s car, fix it up, and it still runs today. Can you do that with a Tesla? That's the point where we're starting to go. And a lot of companies now are starting to look into hydrogen engines, or perfecting hydrogen engines. What's it called? Toyota's doing another one where it's like I forgot what kind of gasoline they're using. They're using some kind of like hydrogen, but it was a different name. I digress. It's a whole different topic. But what I'm trying to say is it takes one company with a good idea to challenge the status quo, just like PNB Sakura says. There's no progress without change. So, moving on. Now, oh, all right. All right. So I forgot that I put this in. So I want to talk about, okay, we know this is how Smart Doll started, right? We know you had Smart Doll Classic, right? Fuel Cell. No, it's not Fuel Cell. It was something else. I forgot what it was. But let's move on to the doll stuff, because if I start talking about cars, I'm going to talk about for another 2 hours. So talking about Smart Dolls. Okay, just quick recap. We talked about the dolls. This is the classic style. This is the original style. We had the skin tone colors. We had the fantasy colors. It's changed the game, etc., etc. But now I want to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Is when it comes to Smart Dolls, when is change too much change? When is progress too much progress? Because change is well and good, and progress is always good for the most part. But when is it going too fast, and when is it too much? So I said many a times that, I got into this hobby because of anime. I was a huge fan of anime first, and then I got into the dolls because the dolls had anime collaborations, etc., blah, blah, blah. Danny Chu and his company is going in a direction that is evolving all the time. And that's his goal, though. That is 100% his goal. He's told me personally many times. He's told you guys, the audience, plenty of times that Smart Dolls are ever evolving, ever changing. They're always striving for not really perfection, but for creativity. So, we said this earlier in today's episode that stagnation is the enemy of creativity, because you can't get progress without change, right? So if you keep making the same dolls over and over and over again, you'll get stagnant. You won't get any growth. So Danny Chu's always evolving, and that's why his policies are evolving. The way he runs his company, that's why his doll selection is evolving. That's why his skin tone colors are evolving. It's always forever changing, and that's not necessarily for the bad, but at the same time, some of us and this harkens back to the very beginning of today's episode when I said, when your very first memories of getting into the hobby is your most dear memories, because it brings you back to those days of discovery and excitement. And what I miss most about Smart Doll is the original Smart Doll days. I really do miss the Mirai Millennium. Danny was heavily focused early on in his career with anime, and he still is. He still watches anime today. Probably not as much as he used to or he'd like. He still plays video games because he's always been into video games. But Mirai Millennium was his baby. Even before he started making dolls, he had Mirai Millennium. He had Mirai Suenaga and her cast of characters, so to speak. He had his TV show. He had his blog that all had hints of Mirai in it. Mirai was in movies. Mirai was in TV shows. Mirai was in anime. Mirai was in manga. Mirai had Figmas. Mirai had Nendroids. Like, very heavily influenced in anime. And nowadays, you don't really see that anymore through Smart Doll. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but it is a change that makes me yearn for the old days. Now, a lot of people that have gotten into the hobby, like myself, through anime have been wondering, is Danny done with anime dolls? He's not. He still loves his anime dolls, and he's still going to make them. And he said so on his page or his Instagram before, that anime isn't dead, that he's going to get more anime dolls out. It's just currently he's focusing on Pear dolls and Cortex 2, and now Coffee. So eventually I'm hoping at some point he'll get back to his anime dolls, but he's been very heavily invested on Pear for one, and then Cortex for two. He's doing the Galaxy Green on the side, and he's doing Coffee all at the same time. So there's only so many things that can, grab your attention at once. And unfortunately, anime collaborated girls or anime inspired girls are taking the back burner. But I'm hoping that one day he gets back to it, because I really loved his anime dolls. I like his semi-real dolls, but I don't really connect with all of them. Like, I've mentioned it many times on my channel that I have very cool semi-real dolls that I like a lot, just like Courage. Like Courage semi-real is one of my favorite semi-real sculpts. And the new one that's not out yet, but The Ends of the Earth, Against All Odds. Like these are semi-reels. Independence. These are semi-reels that I really, really enjoyed and I really love till this day. But I do miss the anime aspect. And let's talk about that some more. So we had Mirai Millennium, right? So what I want to show you guys is I'm going to harken back to the early days of Smart Doll. And let me see how many of you remember this and how many of you have never seen this before and, you know, are just inspired to see it. Like, you're just like, oh, that's cool. So let me go ahead and turn our focus to that right now. Just give me a second. So this is Danny Chu's opening sequence for his TV show Culture Japan. It features Mirai and the cast of the Mirai Millennium, and you could definitely see Danny Chu's roots of anime and his love for anime here. This opening sequence was made by JC Staff, which a lot of you, if you're anime fans, you know who that is. The music was made specifically for him. It is a group named Vivid Blaze. It's a Japanese group that made an entire album, and I bought the album, of songs specifically for Danny Chu and Smart Doll. And if you remember the early days of Smart Doll, Vivid Blaze music used to always play in the background of his videos. Whenever he introduced a new doll, whenever he introduced how to put on a wig, whenever he introduced his first box opening video, Vivid Blaze music was in the background. And this is one of their songs, their most popular song, so to speak, because it's the opening song for Mirai Millennium. And I miss those days when his company was so heavily invested in anime. Now, again, I did say Danny Chu's company is all about growth. It's all about evolving. You cannot stay stagnant in one place. But I also feel like, in my personal opinion, I also feel like you shouldn't forget where you came from. And what made Danny Chu so popular and what made him resonate with a lot of international audiences was his love for Japanese culture, Japanese anime. And he really showed that on in his earlier years. Now, obviously, everybody changes. Even I change. Like, I've changed my taste, the way I like things, the way I do things. You know, from time to time, you change as you get older. And Danny Chu has evolved. And he's evolved from anime, so to speak, to get into his semi-real line. He's evolved from the first version of the skeleton to the new version of skeleton. The first version of Cortex to the new version of Cortex. The milk skin tone to cinnamon skin tone to tea to cocoa to coffee to all the fantasy colors. He's always changing and pushing the boundaries of what he is doing and how his company is run. He's always pushing those boundaries, and that's how you keep that creativity going. But sometimes I wish that he would push the boundaries back into anime. Like, there's so much more that he could do with anime. And I don't mean like changing the game per se, but introducing new anime sculpts, like new characters. Like I just miss the old cast. Like you could see in, did I put the next picture in here? Oh no, hold on, I have another picture that I want to show you guys. Did I put it in the slide? Hold on, let me fix it real quick. Okay, let me fix it real quick so you guys can see, because I think I put it in the slide, but I can't remember where it is. Hold on, I really want to show this picture. Where is it? Where did I put it? I thought I put it in the slides. I apologize, guys. Technical difficulties. Hold on. Let me find it. Okay. I think I got it. Yeah. This is it. Okay. Let me get it on screen for you guys. Hold on. Don't do that. Where did we leave off? Okay, so here, start from slide. Okay, so, okay. You have the Mirai Millennium cast, right? Okay. Okay, so this is the next picture I want to show you guys. This is the original cast. This is the Mirai Millennium cast. You have Mirai Suinaga, you have Kizuna Yumeno, her sister Haruka Suinaga, their friend Eiji, Kanata Hoshikawa, and of course Chitose Shirasawa. This is the original OG cast, and you can see from the difference from all of them. They're all anime characters, they're all anime stylized, but they're all vastly different. And of course, my favorite is Chitose out of the bunch, but I really like all of them. And even though there were plans or talks at some point for this to become an anime or an anime series, it never really went to fruition because he created Smart Doll. Like he was already working on Mirai Millennium, and then he had the idea for Smart Doll, and that pretty much took over. Like Smart Doll was it. But he brought the characters of Mirai Millennium into Smart Doll by making them into dolls. But I miss this. Like I wish we would get more versions of the anime versions. Like maybe we already had Mirai, and then we had Mirai Anniversary Edition, which had some small changes to Mirai, but she was still Mirai herself. We had Kizuna, and then we had a Kizuna change. I really wish we could have like a version 2 or 3 of these characters, another anime version of them, because we even had Chitose, which I dearly love. And then we had Chitose Multiverse. But Chitose Multiverse, for all intents and purposes, is pretty much a semi-real doll. I know some people are going to get mad at me for probably saying that, but for intents and purposes, she is semi-real. Even though he's working on a semi-real version, so to speak, and she's still anime, she's so vastly different that I feel like she could be a semi-real. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too doughy-eyed, or my blinders are on because I love Chitose so much and of her original design. But I feel like, he could have another cast of anime characters, join the Mirai Millennium, or he could start a whole new cast of characters for a whole new show, so to speak. Even though this was never a show, he could do a whole new lineup of characters, like the Space Marine lineup, even though, Mirai Millennium is its own thing. I feel like Space Marines could have its own thing. Like he could really have his own line of anime characters for Space Marines. And Danny, if you're watching this and you want some ideas, I would love to talk with you at some point, because if you're hurting for ideas for anime characters, I would love to help. But I feel like he will at some point, because he said he would, and Danny usually sticks to his word when he says he's going to do something. But I wholeheartedly believe that he's going to go back to anime characters, and we're going to get a whole new line of anime characters. But the community, at least the original OGs like myself that's been around for a while, do miss the anime line of dolls. It doesn't mean that the new semi-reels are not good, because I really like Against All Odds and To the Ends of the Earth. So those are 2 that I really want to get. But I miss the roots of anime. And I miss the roots of anime in his company in general. Like, Danny Chua, just like everybody else, like myself, I love dolls, but dolls is not the only thing I collect. I collect Transformers, There's a new line of Generation 1 Transformers that are being released. I collect those. G.I. Joes, they have now released this new series called G.I. Joe Classified, which are essentially retro G.I. Joes. They look exactly like the ones that I collected when I was a kid, but they're bigger. They're like double the size. And I'm like, oh, this is bringing back nostalgia and childhood memories. I absolutely love it. So, and Danny Chu's human. He's the same way. He loves Star Wars. He's going to make Star Wars. He loves video games. He's going to make video game influenced stuff in his store, in his creations. And there's nothing wrong with that. The man, it's his company. He should do whatever he wants. But I do miss the days when anime, really influenced his company. And I don't know if he grew out of that, like quote unquote evolved out of that or not. I'm not really sure what his plans are or what he feels about it, because again, I didn't ask him, so I'm just speculating. I don't know, what's going to happen in the future. I'm only, guessing or wishing for something that, I really fell in love with. But you could see, like, earlier on in the days, you could see the anime influence, not only in Mirai Millennium, but in the products. He used to sell Japanese learning cards, the Moe Kana cards. These were basically index cards that, on one side would have the answer and on the other side would have, like, the Japanese, and you had to, learn it like flashcards. And these were widely popular, but to be fair, it's widely popular now. I believe at some point when he originally released these, they sold fairly well, and then after a while they didn't sell at all. And he was pretty much struggling to just give these things away at some point. But now that Smart Doll is so popular, and the people that are joining into Smart Doll recently, like let's say pandemic onwards, are now like looking at these old things that they never had a chance to get, and they're like, oh my god, if anyone's got a Japanese Moe Kana card from Smart Doll, I'll give them like $200 for a pack or something like that. Like, people are going crazy over these old things that are no longer made anymore. And I don't know if it's because they like it or because it's nostalgia or it's a collector's piece, but some of these things are like starting to make a resurgence in demand. Like, some people are asking for them. I myself don't have a copy of these Moe Kana cards, and I now wouldn't mind having a deck. I would like to have a deck. But they're not made anymore. So, those things the days of those are now gone. Hold on. There's a lot going in chat. I just want to catch up with you guys. Matthew Nelson says Adika has 2 new colors, pink and violet, if I remember. So yes, I mean, Adika's another company that I didn't mention that's heavily influenced. They made their stuff because they saw Smart Doll and they wanted to make like a silicone version. It's pretty interesting that they're doing pink and violet now. Christina Kowal says, I was checking prices on Smart Doll and was laughing so much to see that Courage was priced in Australia was 666.65. Why? PMB Soccer says, I may get flack for this. I still like Smart Doll and even did purchase the clear vinyl shell recently. Oh, congratulations, you got that. But lately, the direction/cyberpunk thing does not appeal to me. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, PMB. It's just that he keeps changing things for his quote-unquote evolution of the product. And I just hope that, everything comes around. Just like, what's a good example? Bell-bottom jeans. They're in the 70s. Then they died out. Then they came back. Then they died out. Now they're coming back again, apparently. I just feel like anime will have its time in the sun again. It's just right now he's really into his like cyberpunk and like, the post-apocalyptic thing was something he's really big into. And then I feel like that's starting to die out in favor for cyberpunk. So whatever the next big thing that he's into, obviously he's going to make because that's what he's into. But I really hope that anime does come back because that's really where my roots are from and what I have the most love for. Like, I'm an anime guy at heart, and when I got into this hobby, it was because of its connection to anime. But again, I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but that doesn't divulge me from the fact that, semi-real is around. I still love semi-real too, and I've grown to like it. I was on the fence when he initially announced it, and then the more I see them and the more characters he creates, I start to get more and more in love with semi-real. But I miss my roots of anime, and I think that anime is just one of those things that's near and dear to my heart that probably will never change. I don't know what the future holds, but To see more anime characters would be great from Smart Doll because they do them so well. But as of right now, most of my dolls I find myself buying nowadays are from Volks because Volks releases all these anime dolls that I like, and and it's not just anime collaborations. Let me make that clear. The anime dolls Smart Doll makes, like the Mirai Millennium cast, I love those dolls. If we can get those dolls back, I would buy more and more of the Smart Dolls. But right now, I'm getting my anime fix through Volks. So we'll just see how things go. I mean, obviously, I support Danny and everything that he does and his team does with their creativity and their products. But that doesn't mean just because I support them that I'm going to buy every single product from them. Some things appeal to me, some things don't. And I don't think anybody should be ashamed to say that. I know that right now, okay, this is going to get on a really big tangent. And before I hop onto this tangent, let me slow it down a second because there's going to be an ad in 15 seconds. I'm going to let the ad play and then I'm going to go on my little rant. So let me give you guys 5 seconds right here. Oh my God, I'm out of water. Ugh. Okay. All right, so let me go on this rant. All right. You should be able to hit skip on the ads right now. All right, let me go on my little rant. Now, there is this stigma in the community as of right now, especially because there's so much popularity with Smart Doll, that if anyone in the community were to say something negative about Smart Doll, whether it's good criticism, like creative criticism, or whether it's bad criticism that makes no sense and is totally biased, I mean, any sort of criticism whatsoever towards Smart Doll gets, you get the axe. Like, people turn on you on a dime. Like, you could say anything like remotely close to negative or even on the border. Like, it's straddling that line between positive or negative or on the fence or in the middle. And I feel like the community is going to hound you down. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. I've talked to many people at Otakon and at Geekdom Con in the past couple cons that say that, oh, I see that you have Smart Dolls. I really like the Smart Dolls. But, I'm scared to talk to people about the things that I don't like about them because the community really jumps on you. And that's something that I've noticed in the community as of late, is that any negative criticism or any criticism whatsoever, whether it be beneficial or not, the community in general, I'm not saying everyone in it, but like people get jumped on for saying something. Like if you say, Beyond the Brink is not really doing it for me, that doesn't mean that Beyond the Brink is bad. It just means it doesn't float your boat. Like, it's not something that you personally like. There could be millions of people that love Beyond the Brink, and you could be the one lone person that doesn't like it. Just because you don't like it, everybody jumps on your back. And that scares people. That scares people that's in the hobby right now. That scares people that are new. Because people that are trying to get into the hobby that are new, they might say, I love Mirai, she's my favorite. And then people will be like, oh, why not Against All Odds? Well, why don't you like Against All Odds? And then they jump on you. And then that scares people away. Like, there is this brand loyalty going on right now that I think is starting to harm the community. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's coming from the Smart Doll community. And I don't know why it's happening. It's kind of like console wars back in the day, if anybody remembers that. Like when you're a kid, even today, you can't afford multiple consoles. Most kids can't. You have to pick one. Your parents are only going to buy you one. Was it Nintendo or was it Sega? And whichever one that your parents bought you, because they could only afford one, if you were rich and you were lucky, you had both of them. But if you could only afford one, you were a diehard that. And you would always argue with your friends, well, my Sega's better because I got Sonic. No, Nintendo's better because we got Mario, and Mario's better. And like, people only go with those brand loyalties. And I feel like I'm starting to see that more with the community now, and especially with the Smart Doll community. Everything comes in its cycles. So it used to be the doll featuring community was like that in the beginning because they were the OGs and Smart Doll was the new kid on the block. And then now I'm seeing the shift now where it's happening in the Smart Doll community now, where they're persecuting anybody that says anything negative about their hobby, and it's getting out of hand, guys. Like we need to reel that back in. We are all lovers, students, and appreciators of the doll. Okay, it's like my good friend Corey and Anna at Kitten Cat Shop. The BOP, the Benevolent Order of Plangonologists. Like, it is anyone that loves any and all dolls. Like, we need to come together and be cohesive as a group. Unity. Just because you don't like something does not mean that it's bad for the community. It just means it's different. You don't have to like everything that comes out of the community. You like what you like, and you let other people like what they like. It doesn't mean you can't be friends and you can't get along. Let's stop this persecution amongst doll brands. Smart Doll is a great brand with amazing products, and so is Volks, and so is A-Zone. It's just what aesthetic appeals to you more. Do you like IPs? Do you like anime collaboration aesthetics? Maybe A-Zone and Volks is more for you. Do you like original characters or fantasy colors more? Maybe Smart Doll is more for you. Do you like semi-real more than anime? Maybe Smart Doll's more for you. Like, it really just depends on what you like. And just because you like anime more or semi-real more doesn't mean that the other one is insignificant. And it's a trend that I'm seeing in the hobby that I feel is very detrimental to the community. And what we're trying to do is grow the community and grow the love for this hobby, regardless of what you like. And this brand loyalty, almost to the point of negativity, is harming the community more than it is helping. So please, I ask all of you out there that if you are a lover of dolls and the doll community, let's show that love to all dolls. Whether you agree with or you like that dolls, you could still appreciate its artistic artistic what is it called? I'm trying to find the word. Contribution to the hobby. You know what I mean? Like, I am by no shape, way, or form a resin collector, but I appreciate resin dolls for what they are. And there are a few resin dolls that I actually really, really like Disney's, like Volks Disney princesses. I really like them. I would love to own all the Volks Disney princesses in resin. The only thing is that I'm waiting for the one first. I'm waiting for Belle. Once I get Belle and I fall in love with her and I start learning more about resin with the help of Tempest Strife, I will start my journey in collecting the rest of the princesses, which is going to hurt because they're going to cost more at that point. But I feel like I need to start with the one I love first before I move on to the others. And I feel like this is something that the community needs. You need to appreciate art for what it is. And yes, I do say art, even though they're dolls, even though they're luxury items, even though, God forbid, some people call them toys. They're still art pieces. They're still artistical. Somebody had to use some creative noggins in their brain to mold and shape and make this product. It is somebody's creation. It's somebody's baby. It's somebody's artistic expression. Don't knock on it just because it doesn't suit to your personal desires or wants. It doesn't mean that it's not contributing to the hobby as a whole or the community as a whole. So I'm sorry for that rant. I know I probably pissed off a lot of people by saying that stuff, but I have to be true to myself and true to what I believe in. And you guys are free to do the same. If you vehemently disagree with what I'm saying here, say it in chat. Say it in the comments. Let's have a conversation. I don't want to outright disprove you or hate you. I want to learn why you think those things so I can learn to appreciate your point of view also. That's all we want is a conversation. We all want to get along. Can't we all just get along? Like, we all just want to get along. And let's nip this in the bud before it gets worse. Let's get rid of this brand loyalty that's happening, because all these doll companies, for better or worse, whether they're doing it for profit or not, they are all creating these lovable artistic pieces that really contribute to the community as a whole. So please, let's stop all this negativity that I've been seeing going around. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting off my soapbox. So anyways, back to the episode at hand, okay? we have these Moe Kana cards, right? These are very popular. But another thing that was from Smart Doll that was really cool that I wish they do more of, but I know why they don't do it, was things like this. The t-shirts. I loved the Smart Doll t-shirts, the Mirai Millennium t-shirts. I have a Kizuna one. I have a Chitose one. Unfortunately, I don't have the Mirai one. But I love these t-shirts. And I spoke with Danny Chu before. He enjoyed making them. He really did like them, but they were very expensive to make. There's very little profit in it, like, for them to justify continuing doing it, because making it itself, like the materials and hiring the companies to make it, cost a lot of money. And then because of that, they have to break even. They can't at least go at a loss, and they need at least a little bit of profit so that they know that it's worth doing and to continue to do it. And it just got to the point where eventually they were kind of giving them away at like conventions for like below what cost was. And it's just really sad because I really wish this would continue. I would love an Against All Odds Smart Doll t-shirt. I would love a Beyond the Brink Smart Doll t-shirt, a Marvel t-shirt. Like these are things that were around and that I wish would continue being around. There was also, again, I know I said let's stop the brand loyalty wars, but branding your products for other people to have other than the doll is great. Like, for example, how many of you out there love watching anime, right? And you have your favorite shows, your favorite manga and stuff like that. And maybe you have the DVDs, or maybe you have the manga in your collection on your shelves. But that usually stays at home, right? That stays at home. How do you express to other people that you love this hobby of yours or this thing? You have a Sword Art Online backpack. You have a Sword Art Online t-shirt. You have a Sword Art Online keychain. I say Sword Art Online because it's one of my favorite ones. It's just an example. But like, I really liked this kind of brand marketing. And because Smart Doll is so popular, it doesn't really need to market as much as it used to. But I do miss those days. Like I missed out on a chance on getting this umbrella. Like I would use this every day, going to work, going out in the rain, whatever. I would use this umbrella, but I don't have one. I didn't get a chance to get one when they came out because I thought it was always going to be there. Because initially when Smart Doll first came out, their company motto was everything was going to be in stock, at least doll wise. I didn't know that it didn't extend to like t-shirts and knickknacks. But like, I wish I would have had this umbrella. I would definitely use it all the time. And the t-shirts, unfortunately, okay, this is getting a little personal. Unfortunately, I have a lot of Smart Doll t-shirts and I can't wear them anymore because I got fat. They don't fit me anymore. I have a Chitose. I have a Mirai. No, I don't have Mirai. I have a Chitose. I have a Kizuna. I actually have two Chitoses. I have a Smart Doll. Was it the Smart Doll? What is the name of it again? Oh my god! Why is it that I can't remember that? Keep calm. Buy a Smart Doll. I don't know. I forgot. I forgot what it says. Shame on me. But I have one of those, right? I have one of those, and like those, when I bought those, obviously it was the earlier days of Smart Doll because they don't make them anymore. This was, we're talking 2014, 2015 years. I bought them. I weighed like 30 pounds less back then. I cannot fit these t-shirts anymore. They don't fit in me anymore. And it makes me cry every day because I want to go to convention and I want to wear my Smart Doll t-shirt when I meet people, and it just does not fit. Like I can't wear them anymore. It's really sad. I was actually thinking of doing it like a football jersey. I wanted to put it in a picture frame with a glass picture frame and put it behind me on the wall. I'm still debating on whether or not I should do that, but I really, really enjoyed the Smart Doll t-shirts a lot. And maybe I was the only one putting money into the t-shirts and buying the t-shirts when they were released, but I miss them so much. I wish they would come back. Keep calm and carry Smart Doll. Thank you, PMB. I wish they would come back because I really enjoyed them. Same thing with the umbrella. I would love to have the umbrella again. But again, I understand why Danny Chu stopped it because it wasn't worth the effort. It was a lot of time, a lot of research and development, a lot of money to have these companies make these things. And when it's all said and done, it was a very expensive product at the end. And a lot of people didn't want to pay $35 for a t-shirt or $50 for an umbrella. I can understand that because that's expensive for a t-shirt. That's expensive for an umbrella. But it's a Smart Doll umbrella. Like, I kind of want one. I want to show my Smart Doll pride without having to carry a doll everywhere. As much as we would all love to carry our dolls everywhere we go, I just can't. Like, I can't bring my doll to work because of the type of job I have. Like, there's just nowhere I can really bring it. It's not really feasible for me to bring it to work. I bring it to conventions all the time. I bring my dolls with me to conventions. I bring my dolls to me when I go travel. But like, sometimes you just want to bring something with you that is not as big as a doll, like a keychain, so that somebody would recognize, oh, I love your keychain. You collect Smart Dolls. Or, like a t-shirt or a hat or something, like something to show my brand loyalty. And I know that sounds so bad because I just spent like 15 minutes talking about brand loyalty and like not get caught up in it. But what I mean is don't get caught up in it negatively. You could show... Really? Really? You're going to put an ad in now, YouTube? When it says 3 minutes and 51 seconds delayed ads. It still played an ad. This is annoying. It says I have 3 minutes to another ad, but yet it just played an ad right now. This is really upsetting. Like, I'm getting pissed at this, YouTube. Like, what is going on with this? Let me reset the ad timer. All right, 10 minutes starts now. We shouldn't get an ad for another 10 minutes. God. This is annoying. So anyways, it's okay to show brand loyalty as long as it's not negative loyalty. Like, don't use your brand loyalty to harm another person's brand loyalty or anything of that nature. Like, that's just bad. That's unnecessary negativity spreading around. There's nothing wrong with brand loyalty, but when you have negative brand loyalty where you put other people down, that's when it gets crossing the line, and we shouldn't do that to each other. Let's see. Let me calm down for a little bit. I'm going to read your guys' messages in chat because I'm getting a little carried away and I know it. Luxaria says we're walking down memory lane with this. I know, Luxaria. I know. When I was putting together the slides today, I was like, oh, the memories. Wow, that's amazing. Never seen the whole clip, but there was a video on Mirai teaching Japanese language. Yeah. I know which video you're talking about, Christina. Would love it as a wall poster, the team anime. That would be cool. They did do Smart Doll posters way back in the day, but I don't believe they actually really sold them. I think they gave them away to people that built dolls in the store, like way back in the day. But I could be wrong. But I know they had them. Marie says, I agree with you about Chitose. The multiverse version is a semi-real. Yeah, even though I think it was released on the anime line, but it's pretty much a semi-real. I think she's a semi-real. Marie Velez says, Chitose was my first Smart Doll, and she is a princess of my crew. So is mine. My Chitose is the leader of the pack. Second in line would be Cheryl, but... PNB Soccer says, I have both the Moe Kana and the Oe Kanji. I also like how the Figma came with the doll size ones. Yeah, that was really cool. You know what's funny is that those Figmas and those Nendroids of Mirai Suinaga were going away on clearance on Ami Ami. Like, they were selling them for dirt cheap. But now when you try to find them, like on eBay or like Mercari or something, they're super expensive because of the whole Smart Doll hype right now. Christina says, yeah, I have the cards, just love them. I wish I had the cards. Marie Velez says she has the cards. Everybody has the cards but me. Oh my God. PNB Sagar says, all dolls are created equal. Thank you, PNB. Well said. Matthew says, I got into the dolls because of needing an art model. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad point that you bring up because Danny Chu also did that with his dolls. You know that his Smart Dolls are being used at the... what is it called? The Kadokawa Academy of Arts. They actually use the Smart Dolls instead of the wooden figures now. So they now use Smart Dolls as the template to draw the anatomy or whatever. I don't know if they continue to do that, but they did that for years. I don't know if they're still using them to this day because when he announced that was like back in 2017. Let's see. Marie says, I realized the other night that all my SMDs are anime style except for Marvel that just joined my crew. Yeah, I know, because they were heavily like anime focused back in the day. That was their roots. And while they're evolving, they're straying further and further away from their roots. But I believe that they will go back to anime at some point. I'm hoping they will. Daiju said that he would at some point. I'm really hoping that he does. But again, it's his company and he can take it in any direction that he wants. And it's not like the direction he's taking the company in now is bad. Like Semi-Real is popping off right now. And the little cosplays that he does and, the diversity and inclusion he does is so beneficial to the doll community. It's unfathomable how much influence this man has on our doll community and how much he has changed it for the better. But I do wish that anime would come back. I'm waiting for another line of anime dolls. Let's see. Christina Kowalt says, I was the one that put it to Danny to ask what smart doll do you want to see, and I said Naruto would be super cool, and people went crazy. I'm so happy that I was the one who did that. Yeah, I'm hoping for Naruto too. I mean, we already seen the prototypes. I'm hoping he releases sometime soon. I think he was supposed to release last year, but I guess it got pushed back again. Luxaria says, I prefer Dolphies, but I won't hesitate to buy a smart doll if I find a girl or a boy that would fit my taste. As a main resin doll collector, owning a Disney princess is a goal. Oh, Luxaria, you're in the place though, because you're in Japan. You probably have the pick of the litter for secondhand market on princesses. There's got to be some good ones out there. Now I know like living in Japan is kind of expensive, so you really got to pick and choose, what you spend your money on. But I think it's definitely in the cards for you at some point. You will definitely have one. I guarantee it. Look at this. It says 5 minutes left before the next ad, but now it's telling me ads will resume in 45 seconds. What is that? It's supposed to be delayed for another 5 minutes. Why is it doing this? YouTube is pissing me off. They really are. YouTube's really pissing me off. I don't want this many commercials in my show. Christina Kowalt says, I don't have any t-shirts. The t-shirts are so good, Christina. I really wish he made more of them. The only downside was all the t-shirts were made with Japanese sizing. So a lot of Westerners like couldn't fit the t-shirts because they didn't make them in the larger sizes, which is really unfortunate. But I really wish the t-shirts come back. But our lovely friends at My Lady Disdain are making Smart Doll t-shirts. And they are really good Smart Doll t-shirts at that. They have really cute designs, and they get their designs from Danny, and some of them are made by the community that put in t-shirts, and they're just really great t-shirts. But I do miss the original Smart Doll t-shirts with the Smart Doll tag on it. Like if you guys can't see it in the picture because Chad is blocking it, but each Smart Doll shirt had an orange tag on the arm. It's like on this arm over here, there's like an orange tag that says Culture Japan, and then one on the bottom of the shirt over here that says Culture Japan. Also on the back of the t-shirt, there's the Culture Japan insignia on the back. Like it was just a really cool thing. Like I loved carrying around Smart Doll merch everywhere I went without necessarily have to show a doll. Because right now I feel like because Smart Doll's very hyper focused on dolls right now, even more so than their clothing and accessories, it's just they're churning out dolls and dolls and dolls like constantly. That like I really wish we had more Smart Doll merch. Like I would personally like more Smart Doll merch, but I feel like I'm the minority in this. Whereas if Danny Chu were to make a bunch, the only person buying them is like me and like a small handful of people. And again, it wouldn't justify him putting all the resources to making those things for such a small turnaround. So I get it why he doesn't do it. I just miss it. I miss it a lot. Let's see. Luxury also says, oh no, I already read that one. Christina says, oh, I read that one. Sorry. I'm trying to get to where I left off. Okay. Christina says you can get a jacket and put it on the back. It would be cute. What, like stitch it onto the back of a jacket? Oh, no. Welcome to the stream, No. Hello there, longtime collector, new follower here. This conversation made me realize all my dolls are different brands. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That just means you're a lover of all. and that's really cool. Like as far as brands go for me, it's A-Zone, Smart Doll, and Dolphy Dream. That's all I have right now. I want to extend my collection to what's it called, to Dollbot, but getting Dollbot dolls are very difficult right now. I also want to extend my collection to Tiny Fox. After seeing a bunch of Tiny Foxes in person, I really want one now. So at some point, that's going to be added to my collection. But really, I only have the big three at the moment. But it's great that you have dolls from all different kinds of brands, because there's nothing better than appreciating art in many forms. DD T'Chalas, welcome to the stream, DD T'Chalas. I'm sure you know My Lady Disdain sells Smart Doll t-shirts now. Yes, and I'm pretty sure you said that before I mentioned it, so props go to DD T'Chalas for saying it first. But yes, My Lady Disdain makes lovely t-shirts. I really just miss the Smart Doll ones. But the ones that My Lady Disdain make are very, very close to the Smart Doll ones. So definitely, if you want a Smart Doll merch to wear right now, go onto their channel and to their shop, and you can get it there. I just miss the old school ones. Like I don't know. I'm a sucker for nostalgia and old school stuff. Like, and when I say old school, I mean my generation's old school. Like, I don't mean like 50s old school, but like. But it's so odd for me to say that my stuff is old school now, because I'm such an old man compared to the rest of the community that's in this hobby. But yes, My Lady Disdain, they have lovely Smart Doll t-shirts and merch. So don't sleep on them. They have good stuff. Marie Velez says, I'm glad that you are talking about this issue in the community. The brand elitism is one of the reasons that doll groups dissolve. It is true. And doll elitism is a topic for another day. I mean, I briefly talked about it in another episode of Beyond the Doll, but that's a topic for another time. But it's just that stuff just hurts. It's not good for anybody. It doesn't benefit anyone when you do things like that. It really doesn't. At best, it just leaves status quo. It leaves no room for growth. And it's just bad for the hobby. I think it's bad for the community. And whether you disagree with me or not is your right. And if you disagree, voice it. Let me know, because I would like to have a conversation about it. Luxaria says, it's crazy how Smart Dolls are not so popular with Japanese people. That is a very interesting point, Luxaria. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to say more than 50%. I want to say 75% of Smart Doll sales are international sales. They're not actually sales within Japan itself. That doesn't mean Japanese people don't buy and appreciate Smart Dolls. They just don't sell as much as in Japan. And I honestly don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of A-Zone and Dolphy Dream brand loyalty, because they came first and they just won't open their hearts up to something different, something new. Or if it's just Japanese people just don't like the aesthetic, because believe it or not, Smart Doll has its own aesthetic that's different from the other dolls. Like, for example, the 90-degree bend in the legs, maybe that's a turnoff. Or the fact that the legs themselves are artistically long. Like, Smart Dolls are very long-legged compared to the other dolls, very long-legged, like supermodel long leg. And the other doll companies are more proportional, so to speak. And Smart Dolls are fashion dolls. They're very highly stylized. For at least in the beginning, that was the idea, was Smart Doll for smart fashion. And it really was that in the beginning days. Like, if you look at all the accessories and the clothing that Smart Doll released in its early heydays, it was very fashionable. Like, modern chic fashion. Like, you had the sleek shirts, the smexy shirt, you had the jeans, like the Tokyo jeans, you had the Hiroshima jeans, you had like all these really cool like modern aesthetic like fashion design stuff, which I really fell in love with. And then he went with the post-apocalyptic stuff, which was really cool for its time, but it started to get tiring after a while. Like, there was just too much post-apocalyptic. Now we are getting back into cutesy stuff, which is really cool, because he's making a lot of the kigurumis, like the kigurumi sweater, the what is the other one called, the nice sweater, the rainbow colored one, I forgot what it's called, the soft sweater. He's making like things like overalls and things like that, but he's also doing like cyberpunky stuff. So, he changes it up, but I do miss the old like modern chic fashion stuff that was early on in the Smart Doll days. But again, I am a sucker for nostalgia, and those were my happiest and best memories of the hobby, was that discovery phase period. So a lot of my, attention like really revolves around that, because it just brings up all these good feels when I think about it. So that's heavily biased on my side, and I do admit it. Like I'm not like what's the word? I'm not aloof to the fact that I am being pretty biased when I say those things. So I understand that it is. But again, that's to my own personal tastes. I'm not saying you guys have to follow suit with that. That's just my own personal taste on things. And everybody has their own thing. That's just mine. Let's see. But for why Japanese people don't latch onto Smart Doll as much, I really don't know. I feel like Luxaria, you would probably know more, being part of the Japanese community. You would probably have more insight to that than myself. But I do know what you're saying. The sales are not as high within Japan as it is outside of Japan. But it is what it is. I also fun fact, I also believe that Dolphy Dream itself is losing steam inside Japan also. Like when I was first in the hobby in the early 2013s to about 2019, I used to get nonstop bombarded with Smart Doll and Dolphy Dream photos on Instagram, on X, and on Twitter, and on Facebook. Nowadays, I usually only see Smart Doll. I don't see as many Dolphy Dreams popping up on my feeds as much as Smart Doll pops up. Now, that might just be the algorithm, because they think I talk about Smart Doll a lot, and the algorithm just sets me to see Smart Doll stuff. But I really don't see as much Dolphy Dream as I used to, which is kind of odd. We have an ad break coming up. So let me get... I wanted to say let me get some water, and I'm out of water. Boo. I'm really thirsty. You guys mind hanging on a bit? I'm going to get a glass of water real quick. I'll go as fast as I can. Just give me a second. You guys can talk amongst yourselves. I just need more water. I've been doing a lot of talking, and my throat is really dry. I'll be right back. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I am back. Okay. Ugh. Ugh, my seat. Some water. All right. Let's continue on. What are you guys saying here? PMB Sakura says, I miss how it was they had the t-shirt for human and doll so you could match. Yeah, that was cool. I miss those days where you had the matching t-shirts with the dolls t-shirts. They don't do that anymore. Nono says, I have Volks, Dollstown, Dollzone, and Zoom. Oh, nice. The Dollzone ones, I've seen a couple of those, but I've never seen the Dollstown ones. I'll have to look those up. Matthew Nelson says, they have all kinds of cool dolls. Did I miss what you said before? They have all kinds of cool dolls. Oh, I missed it because obviously you typed that a while ago. I don't know what we were referring to. I'm sorry, Matthew. If you could just restate it in the chat, that would be great. PMV Sakura says, maybe Japanese buy Japanese and they see Danny as an outsider. It's funny that you say that because for all intents and purposes, the word they use, the gaijin word, technically Danny Chu is a gaijin. He's not a Japanese resident, but he's done so much for the Japanese anime community and the community in general in Japan. Like, he's even part of the Japanese Travel Association board. Like, I don't really think that they see him as that per se, but maybe the hardcore doll people do see him like that, and maybe that's why they don't buy it. But again, this is all speculation. I really don't know. I have no real facts or truth behind this to prove otherwise. But it's interesting that you say that I mean, that could be it, but he works closely with so many Japanese companies. Like I don't really see why that would per se be an issue, but I can't really say that it's out of scope either. Like it is always a possibility. Christina Kowal says, I don't think Danny was super impressed in TV show, and you must be popular to be on TV. Well, he did. He had his different shows, so obviously his shows were not prime time. It's not something I was aired at the most greatest time of the day. I honestly don't know what time of the day his shows were on, but it couldn't have been during prime time because those are reserved for like the big shows that they have in Japan, like their reality shows, their news shows, their dramas and things like that. He probably had like some time slot on a Saturday or a weekend time, like during the day or the afternoon, if anything, or maybe late night. But he did have the Culture Japan TV show. He did have another TV show that was called Japan Mode. And he worked with various companies to have like Mirai and different TV shows, movies, and anime. So it's not like he hasn't been a part of the community and working with the Japanese community. But I mean, last time I spoke with him, he did want to do more of the Culture Japan stuff, but I think that Smart Doll really took over his life, so to speak, and his passion. And Culture Japan TV show is a lot of effort and a lot of planning. I remember him talking to me about that, how there was just so much that went into it that it was basically to the point where he had to choose one. It's either the TV show or the dolls, and obviously he chose the dolls. Luxaria says, I do enjoy going to the photo booths in Volk's store, but it's only for Volk's dolls. Yeah, unfortunately, that's their rules. Like Volk's only dolls in their store and in their photo booths. But I mean, at some point it does kind of make sense. Like you have to understand that we're looking at this from a collector standpoint, where we collect multiple different things. But this is not uncommon practice for anywhere else. Like, you don't go to what's a good example? Like, I like the Baltimore Ravens football team. And if you go to one of their football games, you're always going to see one of two jerseys. You're going to see the Baltimore Ravens jersey, or you're going to see the opponent's jerseys, right? Because the opponent's team is there, so they have fans that cheer them on. But if you go to a Ravens only thing, like Ravens practice arena, Ravens practice squad, Ravens signings, they don't say that other teams are not allowed, but when you go to those events, it's pretty much all Ravens fans. Everyone there is a Ravens fans. Everyone's there is wearing Ravens merchandise. Same thing with car shows. You can go to a car show, like a Japanese import car show, and there's all different cars from all different brands. But if you go to a Honda car show, it's only Hondas on display. Like, so it's not far-fetched to say, for a company to say that, oh, this is a Volks store, we only want Volks dolls in our store. Like, people are like, oh, Volks is elitist and that's stupid. It's not. Like, every company does this. It's not unique to Volks. Like, you could go into a Honda dealership in a Toyota, but they're expecting you to come in there and ask to buy a Honda. You're not going to roll up in a Toyota, go to a Toyota dealer and be like, let me see your selection of Toyotas. No, like it's a Honda store. So it's the same thing with Volks. Like people are really giving Volks crap about that, but I really don't see it being an issue because it happens in everything that you buy for the most part, unless the store is a store that carries everything, like Target, like a department store. Target carries all the brands. So it doesn't matter if you're wearing like, I don't know, like I don't know what's a Target, Goodfellas. Like Goodfellas is a men's Target brand. It doesn't matter if you're wearing Goodfellas or you're wearing Nike. It doesn't matter, like, because they also carry all different brands, and they don't care because they carry all different brands. But if you go to a store that only carries one brand, one thing, and their store is all about that one thing, it's not uncommon for them to be like, yeah, we just want to be surrounded by that one thing. It's our store for the one thing, and we want to, endorse the one thing. It's not unheard of, and people are making a huge stink about it. Like, is it unfortunate? Like, if you only own a smart doll and you want to buy your very first Dolphy Dream, and it just so happens you're in Japan and you're carrying your smart doll everywhere, and you want to buy a Dolphy Dream, but they won't let you in the store because you have your smart doll with you. Yes, that's a bummer. And yes, I can understand that that is an issue. But for the most part, in general, they just don't want you advertising another doll in their store. That's all it is, really. It's not. I would like to believe it's not because they hate smart doll, which obviously I have no facts about that on whether or not they do or not. But I think they're just trying to stick to their brand and advertise their brand, and they don't want confusion that when people in the store are looking at a smart doll, they're like, oh, where did you get that Dolphy Dream? And then it leads to confusion, which is another reason why Danny Chu also asks politely that if you go to his booth at the conventions, that you only bring smart doll stuff, because other people are now mistaking other brands for other brands, and it's being an issue, and now Danny Chu is seeing that. Whereas before, he didn't care what brand you had in his store or wherever you toted around, but now people are making a big stink about it, that when somebody comes by with a Dolphy Dream and puts it on the smart doll booth, now people are like, oh, how dare you put smart doll, now you're selling smart doll Dolphy Dreams. Like, people are just going crazy, and again, it's the community that themselves that is doing this to this hobby. The community is doing it. It's not really just the brands. Like, I'm not saying the brands are getting away with this scot-free, but I feel like a lot of this negativity is coming from the community, and it needs to stop. Please. Like, it's getting out of hand, people. Like, it's getting to the point where, like, even Danny Chu himself is like, I can't, like, I have nothing against Dolphy Dream, and you could bring them to my store, but now I can't have you doing it because now people are accusing me of selling Dolphy Dreams, or, or ripping off Dolphy Dream designs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stop, people. Give it a rest. They're all dolls. They're all beautiful. Stop with the brand hatred. Okay. Dollstown is Korean. It has quite a unique aesthetic. I gotta Google that. I'm gonna look that up. No. I'm gonna check it out and see what they got, because I have never heard of that one, so I'm just curious. Marie Velez just says Japan is doll collector heaven. It kind of is. I mean, after being to Japan, and the reason why I say it's Japan doll collector heaven is not because necessarily there's just like dolls just flock to Japan. It's more so that, like, we just don't have it anywhere else. Like, we could have a doll haven here in the United States. It's just nobody opens up the stores for it because nobody thinks that there's a market here to sell them, or Volks won't, make another store, or Danny won't make a store. And for whatever reasons, good or bad, we just don't have another store. If we had more doll stores, maybe the community would grow even more because there's more advertisement. There's more knowledge about the dolls. Who knows? But there just so happens to be more stores in Japan. It's more widely accepted in Japan. So whenever somebody wants to open a store, they open it up in Asia because it's a more accepted hobby there. Whereas here in the West, in the United States, in Europe, there is doll stigma. And we talked about that in prior episode of Beyond the Doll with my great friends, Corey and Anna and Lindsay and Tempest. We had a great episode about doll owners and perception. And right now, unfortunately, in the West, there is a negative perception of doll owners. And that's just the way it is right now. And we need to change that. We need to change that so that it doesn't have that negative stigma, so that companies would like to open up stores here in the States or in Europe. It's not frowned upon as much in Japan or Asia. So that's why the companies that do it open them up there and start there. But there's a negative stigma about dolls here in the West, and that's why we don't have that. Or at least that's what I believe. Again, this is my opinion. I could be 100% wrong on this. Feel free to call me out because I am not infallible. I make mistakes. Okay. Let's see. Marie Villa says, in the US, you don't go to the American Girl store to take photos with another brand 18-inch doll. That's correct. PMB Soccer says, oh my god, the inspection they did caused I had Emilia in a different outfit than the default one. I understand that confusion. I do. I understand the confusion because if they see the Dolphy Dream in another outfit that they don't think was a Volks outfit, they will look at you side eye. That is true. They do because they don't want to be seen as advertising other brands. because there could be copyright laws. There could be an issue. Now, they could be just elitist. Who knows? I don't know. This is just me being glasses half full kind of guy. PMB Sakura says, but yes, only Volks dolls can be used if you're there to use their photo booth. Yep. Luxarius says, I was the opposite. The staff was able to identify my Ritsuka when I bought her there for photos in different outfit. It really depends on what staff you get, Luxaria. Some staff are really strict. Some staff are more open to things. It really depends. It's just like any other store. It depends who you get, who's working that day. Depends if they were in a good mood that day. I mean, people are people. It's just being human. Nono says, Volks was the only brand for so long. There's a history, so I understand many people keep up with them. And that's true. Volks is one of the first, if not the first. I mean, I guess it is the first. There is a debate, Luxaria, between who came first, Volks with vinyl or Azone, or not really Azone, but at the time, Obitsu making vinyl. But to say who really popularized it, I would have to give it to Volks. If Obitsu had the first vinyl doll, it wasn't very popular and it didn't take off. So let's say the one to popularize the vinyl brand for so long is Volks. I think it's because the hood up was on her cloak, or maybe just like the outfit and it took time. Oh, I don't know, maybe PMB. But again, it's just people being people, really. Nono says, I'm in France and the doll owner stigma is very strong here. Yeah, see? This is what I'm talking about. I don't live in Europe, but I've heard stories, and now I'm hearing it from Nono as well. Like, there is a negative doll stigma, out there, and that's why doll companies are situated in places that there is no doll stigma. Well, I shouldn't say that. In Asia, there still is a doll stigma, but it's not so heavily negative. It's more like somebody will see someone with a doll, and instead of getting disgusted like they do here in the West, where they're just like, oh, you must be a pervert, or why don't you grow up, or maybe there's something wrong with you. But in Asia, it's more widely accepted where at least if they see a doll, they're not going to say something like that. They'll just be like, oh, it must be an otaku. Okay, and they just move on. So even though it's accepted, it's not accepted at the same time. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. I just hit pause on the ad and it's playing again. I said pause. I don't like this new rollout that it's doing. I really don't. This is very upsetting. It only started happening last stream. It didn't do this before. Okay. Matthew Nelson says, nope, you are right about dolls in the US being frowned on. I'm just the odd artist guy that has dolls. Yeah, I mean, listen, it takes time. Change takes time. But as long as the community stays strong and keeps on going and the doll companies are there to support us, like, the stigma will change eventually, hopefully. We just got to keep strong and carry on. It's kind of cheesy, I know. All right, let's move on. Let's move back. That was a huge tangent. Let's move back to the topic at hand. All right, because I had more that I wanted to show. Now, next is, hold on, let me just make sure I don't do the wrong thing. Okay, so yeah, so it's the evolution. Okay, sorry. Because I lost my train of thought because we keep going on so many tangents. Okay, so the evolution of Smart Doll. This was all the heyday. Like, this is the stuff I missed from the heyday. The Moe Kana cards, the anime girls, the anime merch. But we have changed. And I have said this. The doll hobby has changed. Our dolls have changed. And this is classic. This is what we're used to. This is what we have always seen. And now we have Pair. Pair is different. Pair is new. Pair is shocking to some people, but it is here. Pair is here, and it is here to stay, and it is a good change. Like, this is a good change. Smart Doll is evolving. The community is evolving. You have the original, the OG, the spine, the internal frame. Then you have the evolved version. Like, Smart Doll is ever changing, ever evolving. And I know they're not the first to do it. I know that because Volks did it too. They had DD, they had DD2, DD3, and so on. So it's not like they are the first one to ever come up with the idea of change, but they're sticking true to what they believed in and their company mantra of always evolving, always changing, always being creative. And this is just another path on that destination. So we have this frame and we have the evolve frame, which we currently have. And I'm sure that'll change in the future as well. We also had Cortex, the original Cortex with the infamous part that always breaks right here. And then now we have Cortex 2 in the works. So, he learns from his mistakes. It's not like he creates a product and just throws it to the side. He created Cortex. He gave away all the old Cortex stuff. He let it sit on the back burner. He had time to rethink about it, redesign it, and now we have Cortex 2. Now, whether or not Cortex 2 will be more popular and take off, we don't know yet because it hasn't been released. But I would like to believe that Cortex 2 will take off. Oh, and then we got the anime corner. Okay, so before we go to the anime corner, there's some other nostalgia things that I want to address and I want to talk about. Let me see. So going on to the whole thing with Danny Chu. You remember how I said Danny Chu had a past, right, of anime? He came from anime. I want to show you guys a little clip, and some of you guys may already seen this clip, but a little clip that I really like, showing how Danny Chu is heavily rooted in anime, started with anime, had anime merch, but also Mirai Suenaga, before she became a doll, she was in anime, she was in manga. So let's watch this little clip right here. It's one of my favorite clips that I really like. So let's do this.
まずは、あちらのゲーマーズ難波店に行ってみましょうか。ダニさん大好きな可愛い女の子がいっぱいいますよ。じゃあすごい雨降ってきたので、はい、ちょっと入りますか。早めに行こう。はいはい。
ゲーマーズはキャラクターグッズの専門店。アニメやゲームはもちろん、オタクカルチャーをより深く楽しむためのさまざまなアイテムを販売しています。
お、これがゲームですか。はい、そうです。すごいですね。なんかいじるところいっぱいありますね。でしょ。これほら漫画もいっぱい売ってるし。はいはいはい。
So yes, he would have little tidbits of that. That was the beginning days of Mirai. Those were Mirai early days before she became a doll. She was in manga, she was in anime. He used her on the mascot on the show all the time. You would always see her. In this particular clip that we watched, that was an actress by the name of Mimuri Suzuko. Or Suzuko? Suzuko. And she was an idol, and she did the voices of many different things. She also played Sailor Mars in the live action version. No, she didn't play Sailor Mars. She played I forgot which Sailor Scout it was. She played a Sailor Scout, let's just say that. Keiko Kitagawa also played Sailor Scout. I think she was Sailor Mars, but I digress. She's very popular in Japan. She also played Anita when they did West Side Story, the Broadway show in Japan. She played as Anita, which was pretty cool. She's a very cool personality, cool lady, and one of Danny Chu's closer friends, at least back in the day. I don't know how well they keep up with it nowadays. But yeah, you could see in this earlier clip, of Culture Japan, where he used to do these things where he would just travel Japan and share the Japanese culture with the world. And back then when he did that, that was the first of his kind, because before then, Japan was this mystical place in this far off land that was just too far for the normal person to afford to travel to. And this was before, well, not before, but just was in the very beginning ages of the internet. So it's not like we had all these YouTube Japan bloggers, that do things in Japan, Currently Hannah, or Sea Dog VA, or the Anime Man, or Garnt, Giguk. You don't have things like Sid Snap, or Aki, or who else was another one? There's so many Japan YouTubers now where you could see so much of Japan culture through that. So it kind of made Culture Japan TV show a little obsolete, because so many people are doing it themselves now with the emergence of the internet and streaming and YouTube. But the earlier days, man, this was the place to get your Japanese culture vibe. It was from Danny Chu in his vlogs, or his blogs rather, that you could read, and his pictures that he used to take and post, and this little TV show that he had. This was it. This was your thing. But yeah, I mean, heavily rooted in anime, and I love watching this stuff. Another thing I want to show is, I remember how I said that Danny Chu had a lot of Dolphy dreams. Hopefully, Danny, if you're watching this, please don't hate me for showing this. This is on YouTube. Anyone can find it, but it's just really funny because nobody believes me when I say these things. But let's just watch this clip. This is a really funny clip. This is his studio when he used to do Culture Japan, and look at all these dolls.
始まりました日本が、誇るポップカルチャーを世界へ配信する番組カルチャージャパンの司会ダニチュです。よろしくお願いします。今回はですね、日本のポップカルチャーをより、深くより楽しく、理解してもらえるような VTR をたくさん撮ってきました。
This is another idol. So the person that he's interviewing is another idol from, I think she's a Love Live voice actress or an Idol Master voice actress. But she also voice acted or did the VO for K-On! She played Ritsu, the drummer girl, which is my favorite character. But it's funny because later on in the episode, when you get to the end over here, Danny has a custom-made K-On! Ritsu from Dolphy Dream, and he gave it to her as a gift, and like it's really funny. You see it at the end.
プレゼントですね。どうぞどうぞ。
もらっちゃった。
So I just thought that was really cute. Like he was heavily into Volks back in the day, and like I said, for whatever reason, he decided it was time for him to make his own doll, and then Smart Doll was born, and we are all the better for it, and the community is all the better for it. And I hate to say this because I know it sounds a little cliche and it sounds a little fanboy, but really this whole episode was about that. Like Smart Doll and Danny Chu has changed the doll community. And some people might say it's for the better, some people might say it's for the worse. But personally, if you ask me, I think that him and his team has changed the community, changed the doll community, changed the way dolls are seen, the way dolls are made, and it's not the same hobby as it used to be. And I think it's by the contribution of Danny Chu and his team. I'm gonna let the commercial ad play, and then we'll move on with the show. Okay, that commercial ad should be done. You should be able to hit skip by now. Let's see. Nono says, the stigma around doll collectors here is mainly due to horror movies and basic sexism and homophobia. But the dolls themselves are always being sexualized in the general public's perception, somehow, and that's quite recent. And Matthew says, you're right, Nono. Yeah, you are right. At least for the part that, you know, with the collectors here being mainly due to horror movies like Chucky, you know, things like that, you know, have given negative stigma to dolls. Homophobia, I can't really speak to because I really don't have much knowledge in that field. I'm not really sure how much that really like plays into things. But the public's perception of it being highly sexualized, that is, you know, partly the fault of the companies and partly the fault of the community. Because at least very early on, I don't think it really plays a part now in the community in today's world. But in the earlier on of the vinyl doll hobby, most of the collectors were men. And the companies marketed it to men. So you had voluptuous ladies with big busts and, you know, long legs and, you know, big hips, you know, and a lot of owners back in the day took very, I guess you could say, scandalous pictures of their dolls. And, you know, those pictures got around the internet mostly because people want to make fun of those people and say derogatory, gross things about their dolls. And that negative stigma has traveled around as a meme or as a joke or something disgusting to see. But the hobby has changed now. It's not like that anymore. You still have the odd apples that like to dress their dolls in scandalous outfits, but hopefully you would like to think that it's because for an artistic or tasteful reason, and not for a sexualized one. But the community has grown so much that we have so many different people collecting dolls nowadays, from all walks of life, from all beliefs and all backgrounds, that I think it's no longer a collector's community of sexualized dolls, if so to speak. I don't want to say that it's always been that way, but I understand what you mean by that, no, when you say that. And that negative stigma definitely hurts the community as well, because I've been a victim of it. Like, I've taken my dolls out to the park to take pictures, and people think that I was a pedophile because I had like a little doll that kind of mimics like a young woman, and they think I was some kind of like freak or something, you know? So there is a negative stigma about that, and it's partly because the community was asking for that at the time, back in the day, and the companies saw that it sold, so they did it. But things are different now, or at least I would like to think that things are different now, and we need to change that stigma by showing people that it's not about that it's about art, it's about fashion, it's about love, it's about a community. You know, and we just got to show that every day in what we do. And whether or not you want to be a doll ambassador is not up to you anymore, unfortunately. If you are a doll collector and you own a doll, what you do with that doll in public, whatever you do in your house, is you. That's all you. Like, nobody cares. But once you leave your house and you go out into the public, out into the wild, and you carry your doll with you, what you do with that doll, how you dress that doll, how you show that doll to other people, you are, in, whether you like it or not, a doll ambassador at that point. Whatever you do with your doll out in the public that people see, they're going to equate that to the rest of us in this hobby. So just know that. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying there are people out there that prefer to dress their doll in sexual ways or treat their dolls in sexual ways. And if they just so happen to take that outside where it can be seen by other people, that's a stigma that's going to continue to go on. But vice versa, if you take your doll out and show people that it's not like that, you show people it's an art piece, you show people the creativity and the customization you can do with these dolls, whether it be by sewing or photography or artistry by sketching, like whatever you do, you could show that to people and turn that stigma around and say, look, it's not about hypersexualization. It's about creativity. It's about love. It's about community. And you, as a doll ambassador, can do that when you take your dolls out in public. Sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I have a lot of soapbox moments, but it's my channel. I can do whatever I want. But I do. I know. I say a lot of things, and I genuinely say them from the heart, because whether or not I agree with you or disagree with you, in my core, I love this hobby and I want it to grow, and I want everybody out there to experience this hobby the way I experience it and to love it the way I feel the love, from every other doll owner that I meet in person to every other doll owner that I meet online through chat, through the future doll people that I'm going to meet in the future. Like, I genuinely love this hobby and I want it to thrive, and I want everybody to see that. Whether or not they want to be a part of this hobby, I want them to at least see me and see other people in this community and say, wow, this is really cool. It's not for me, but it seems really cool. And the people there are really nice and they seem to really love what they do. That's a win in my book. Like, I just want people to appreciate us as a community, and for everyone in the community to appreciate each other, please. But you know, some people might think that I'm fake. You know, I'm just playing on people's emotions, like, oh, he doesn't hate anything, he doesn't dislike anything. It's not that. There's things I don't like and there's things that I like. And if I feel like it warrants attention, like when I say like brand negativity or brand loyalty in a negative way, you know, or putting down other people, I will say it. But for the most part, I genuinely like all the dolls that are out there. Even if it's not to my personal taking, I appreciate the artistry and the work that went into it. And, when I talk to the owners of those dolls, they really turn a new light in my head, because then I see the love that they have for their doll and how much they appreciate the art that I didn't recognize was there, and they explain it to me, and it really opens your eyes to a whole new world and a whole new appreciation of things. And all of it starts with a simple conversation and an open mind. And that's what we need. That's all we need in this world, whether it be the doll hobby or anything else. Is you just need an open mind and to be willing to have a conversation with people. And you understand where they come from, and they will come to understand where you come from, and you will always find common ground in that. And I really believe that. I really, really believe that. And I want that for this community. And that's why I do this YouTube show. That's why I go to panels. That's why I go to cons. I go to doll meetups, is to meet more people, talk to more people, spread the love where I can. That's just my contribution to this community. And everybody has their own ways of doing things and contributing, and this is just my way. And it's something that I have really fallen in love with. I've had many hobbies in my day, and I still have many hobbies till this day, but this is the hobby that really tugs at my heartstrings. And I've met so many cool and nice people through this hobby, and so many friends I've made through this hobby, more so than any other hobby I've ever been in before. And it's just an overall good community. Does it have its bad eggs? Sure, every community does. But we got to try our best to make it grow and make sure we all understand each other and work together as a doll family to keep it growing and keep it alive. I'm sorry, another soapbox moment. I'm so sorry, guys. You guys, when I get myself going on these things, I just can't stop. I apologize. I know you guys didn't come here for a TED Talk. Let's see. Nono says, can't wait for Volk's DD Chucky though. What? And when they hear the price, they actually freak out. Oh my goodness. No, please, not a Chucky. I feel like that would give us more negative stigma in this community. I mean, Chucky already has its own dolls. Let's not make more scary dolls that would turn people away. Luxaria says, my mom was so surprised to see a lot of guys going to the Volk store to buy clothes for their female dolls or to take photos. She said it was a bit weird for guys to do that. She's traditional. Yeah, I mean, if you're not used to seeing things, it's going to be jarring. It's going to be shocking. Like, I know this is opening a whole different can of worms, but it's the same thing when people see, like, the WNBA for women's basketball. Like, people have always watched men's basketball. And then all of a sudden, this new star, Caitlin Clark, comes onto the scene. And now everyone's watching the WNBA to see what Caitlin does. And, she's getting a lot of flack from the rest of the people in the NBA community. And like I said, that's a whole nother topic. But really, the first one through the door always gets bloodied. It's just how it is. Because you're breaking down barriers. You're opening doors to other people that hasn't been opened before. And the first person that does that always gets bloodied. They always go through the most hardships. So, like right now, when you see guys doing these things, could it be for sexual reasons? Maybe. Could it be for the genuine love of the hobby? Possibly. But when you're not used to seeing those things, it's always jarring at first. But that's why we got to normalize it. That's why we got to go out as doll people, go out to cons, go out to conventions, go out in public, go to the parks, show your love for these dolls. And the more people see it, the more normalized it will be, the more less creepy it'll be, the more less negative stigma it'll be. It's all about, knowledge and making it known. And there's no better way to do that by showing it to everybody, really. Let's see. Nono says, people are way more tolerant about figurines because, again, sexism. Yeah, I guess. I could see where you're coming with that, but, at least with figurines, they have a lot of male and female figurines out there. Like, you can get Mandalorian or Superman or Batman, and then you can get, like, Batgirl or Chitose or, Aqua from Konosuba or Levi from Attack on Titan. Like, there's always, like, a lot of male and female statues, but when it comes to dolls, they are mostly all females. there are male dolls out there. It's not like they don't exist. They're just a lot less of them, especially in the vinyl side of things. There's a lot less of them. On resin, there's actually a good healthy amount of them. And Tempest can attest to that, and many of you in chat can attest to that. In the resin side of the hobby, there's a lot of male dolls, actually. They're actually pretty popular on that side. But for whatever reason, in vinyl, not so much for some reason. But there's a lot of people outcrying for dolls, for boy dolls. And we've had this conversation many times on this channel. But for some reason, it's not sticking. We're not selling as many male dolls. I don't know why. Matthew says, there are dolls all over my room, my art room. There are dolls all over one corner of my house. Let's just say that, because my wife encapsulates the rest of the house. Nona says, figurines, action figures, collectors are always so interesting when you get to know them. Yeah, really. I met this one individual at the last doll meet who talked to me about sculpting dolls. And sculpting animals and dinosaurs and robots and figures and stuff like that. I didn't have any knowledge in the actual sculpting process of things. And it was such a cool conversation. He brought so much information that I never knew existed. And it was really like a good learning opportunity. And all it takes is a small conversation. And you learn so much. And you learn that when somebody is passionate about something and you ask them about that passion, they are not afraid to tell you everything about how they love. And that love really comes across. Like, you could really feel it in their voice and what they're saying about something. You could feel that energy. And it's always so nice to see someone so enamored and so infatuated and passionate about their thing. Luxaria says, I have a cousin who thought my Dolphy was creepy. I just grabbed my doll and rubbed it more on her. Now she doesn't say anything about my dolls. It's now a joke for us. That's pretty funny. Nona says, I'm more on the resin side. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. My friend Tempest is more on the resin side as well. Resin has very cool stuff. I need to dip my toe into the resin side so I have more of an understanding. But I'm waiting for that one doll to turn me. That's what it is. I'm waiting for the one doll, and I feel like that one doll is going to be Belle, and I'm waiting for that day. Let's see. Matthew Nelson says, oh, I need to print some Mandalorian armor for my girls. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that, Matthew, next time we meet up. Luxaria Altaria says, yep, all my resins are men, except for one SDM Super Dolphy. Yeah, the men are more popular on resin. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because of the resin aesthetic. It suits the men more, whereas in the vinyl, it's more anime look and it's more pretty boy. And maybe there's just not as much of a market for that. But I know that with the resin side, they're more masculine looking. They're more like the tall, dark, and handsome, sometimes gruff with like the 5 o'clock shadow. They do have pretty boy versions, but there's more like, right, the resin has a lot of like punk rock pretty boy kind of thing, if I'm not mistaken. But they don't have like, does resin have like versions of pretty boy like, let's say Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen type of thing? Like that kind of pretty boy? Because I feel like that suits more of an anime style than a resin style. But I could be wrong. Again, I'm not an expert on resin, so I could be 100% wrong on that. But I do agree. Resin, there's more male dolls in resin, and they sell more male dolls in resin than they do in the vinyl aspect. Luxaria says, I think Belle or Jasmine is the next resin princess based on the shoes. Yeah, I think so too. I 100% agree with you, Lux. I really think so too. Okay, so that wraps up my presentation today for, my topic of dolls and are they changing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. It really was a passion topic for me. It's because I'm fortunate to have been in this hobby for so long to see the changes, whereas some of you may be a little new to the hobby where you maybe have not noticed it yet or seen it yet. But it's definitely something that I have definitely seen and I like to talk about because it's like I said earlier, it's like you can change, you can evolve, you can learn new things, but don't forget where you came from and what made you who you are today. So same thing with me. Anime was my gateway drug. I don't think I would have been anywhere or doing anything related to what I do today other than dolls or dolls themselves if it wasn't for anime. I think anime is what really changed my life, and anime will always be dear to me, and I will always love anime dolls. It doesn't mean that I don't like any other type of doll. I have appreciation for all dolls, but I do have a soft spot for anime dolls, and that's why the majority of my collection are anime styled or anime collaborated dolls. Let's see. So unless anybody has any more questions for me or want to talk about anything related to dolls, then I'm going to end it with my anime corner for today, because this is a very long episode. We're almost on 3 hours today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope some of you maybe found it informative, maybe a trip down memory lane for some of you. And for those of you that are new, because I know there were some new faces today, thank you for coming to today's stream. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I can see you guys again in future episodes. I really, really love this hobby, and I love talking about this hobby, and it's always great to be able to talk with you guys to it, but it's always even better to have a conversation with you. And I love reading your comments. I love reading the live chat and interacting with you guys, because this is where the doll community is right now. I don't have many people that I know in real life or in person that live near me that collect dolls that I can have a conversation with every day. So this is my time to conversate dolls with the rest of my doll family. All you international folks out there and other United States folks out there, you guys are all part of the doll family. And, you know, I love talking with you guys. It's such a great time. All right. So, Nono says, I'm really curious about the vinyl, and I love the innovations like the skeletons, etc. Yeah, they're really cool. Like, I think they're really nice. I have to learn, and my friend Tempest Strife is going to teach me one day how to string up a doll, but I got to get that first resin doll to do so. Christina Kowal says, I'm the same. Been the biggest fan of anime shows, and that's why I collect smart dolls. Matthew says, glad I got off work early so I could catch you here. Well, we're glad to have you, Christina, Matt, Nono, Luxeri. We're glad to have you on today's stream. I'm glad you guys get to catch it. But if you didn't, you know, you guys can always watch it on the VODs, of course. So before I end today's episode, I'm going to go over my thing I like to always do is I'm going to talk about the anime corner. So there's a new season of anime out. So there's a lot of shows to watch that I really want to see. So I got started on watching a few of them, and one that really stuck out with me that I really like, it's not over yet because obviously this is a new season of anime, so there's only, I think, 5 episodes of this, and I've seen the first 3 so far, and I really, really enjoy it. It's called Wisteria Wand and Sword. So Wisteria Wand and Sword, this is a great anime. As far as I know, this is not an isekai. I know I do a lot of isekais on my channel because I love isekais. This one's not an isekai. As far as I know, this is just a regular run-of-the-mill fantasy story. So basically, it's kind of like Mashle in a way, if you have seen Mashle from my last recommendation. It's all about a magic academy. And in this world, magic rules. Like, magic is the strongest thing ever in this world. Like, magicians are number 1. So things like fighter, barbarian, rogue, like any kind of melee combat or physical damage combat is pretty much frowned upon. Like, they're not really seen as the elite. They're not really that great. And then it's a story about this gentleman here with the green hair, Will. And he can't use magic at all. He really wants to use magic, but he can't. But his best friend uses magic, and they have progressed up the ranks of the magic chain. And he has made a promise to her. Obviously, it's always a her, right? If it's a guy, it's a her. If it's a girl, it's a guy. You know, he's made a promise to her that they will be at the top of the magic elite together, and they will do it together. But unfortunately, he can't use magic, so she rose up the ranks and he stayed put. So the whole show is about him trying to get to the top without using magic. And he compensates for it by being really fast and really strong. Like, think Kirito. He's kind of like Kirito in a way, where he's super fast, you know, super swift. He's not really like muscular strong, but he defeats all these enemies that all his other fellow magic user students can't. And he keeps trying to climb up the ladder even though he can't do magic, and everyone keeps shooting him down because of the obvious fact that he can't climb the magic tree without using magic. But he refuses to accept that. It's a really good show. The cast of characters are really great so far. And the art, the cinematography and the art is really good. I really enjoy the art style and the way the characters are drawn in the show. It's one of the best I've seen so far this season. But I haven't seen all the shows this season yet to make a definitive answer. But I really do love the art in this show a lot. And I love my fantasy shows. So whether it be isekai or not, like it's got swords, it's got magic, it's got wizards, it's got knights. So I'm down for it. So that's my recommendation. It's only 5 episodes in. I think maybe at the end of this week it'll be 6. But definitely give it a watch. And I say this all the time. If you like the recommendations I've given in the past, this might be one that you might actually want to see. So check it out. Wistoria, Wand and Sword. You can find it on Crunchyroll. I don't know if it's on High Dive or not, but if you have Crunchyroll, you can watch it there. But that is everything. That's everything for today's show. Wow, it's a 3-hour show. This is a long show today. I actually didn't think the show would take that long, but I don't know why I thought that, because it's such a topic so close to my heart that I should have known that I was going to talk for hours and days on this. But yeah, that is everything. Now I got to wake up really early. My kids got band camp, so it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, so I got to get up early. So it's time to end the stream for tonight. It is 1 o'clock in the morning for me. I'm sure it's a lot later for you guys in the rest of the world. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it fun and entertaining or informational. And for those returning attendees, my doll family, thank you for coming again and supporting my channel and having a great time with me and participating. For all of you that are new, that have joined today, that are new, I really appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see more of you in later episodes. So next week is going to be the Doll Symposium, which is a news episode, so we're going to cover the news, and then after that will be another episode of Beyond the Doll, as they always cycle. So see you guys in the next one. That's it. I am your host, Shizu-san, and my beautiful assistant with me here today is the original OG Chitose, who's going to go back in her little display case so that she doesn't get worn and torn by the elements anymore. Poor girl. She's been through a lot. She really has. She's been everywhere with me in all types of weathers. So snow, sun, rain, wind, mud. Like, she's been through it all. Like, this girl deserves retirement. So thank you everybody for coming. And I will see you guys in the next one. Later. Bye. Oh, wait, not that one. Sorry. This one. I like this one. Bye.
Told me there'd be better days, and nothing that can pull us under. You wanna take the pain away, but know that I was born as a fighter. We fade, but we're better than that. We're better than that.